Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope that your holiday break was absolutely outstanding. You're gearing up, ready for the new year. 2025 went very fast. Maybe a little too fast. And 2026, right around the corner. We're very glad that you're here and with us. Hopefully, Santa brought you something good. We've got a great stream planned this morning. As you can see, little bit different scenery behind us. We're here in Washington, D.C. We're super excited about it. We've got an awesome court hearing that we're going to be attending tomorrow in the D.C. Federal District Court. We're excited about that. We're going to talk about that case today, but a quick preview, then we'll zoom in. We've got some January 6 updates to talk about, specifically the Brian Cole Jr. matter, and I've got a couple of documents queued up here. Let me show you what we're going to get into, but a couple of items that just got dropped over the weekend and over the break. The government is now saying we have enough evidence to keep this guy in detention. So Brian Cole Jr., of course, the alleged pipe bomber, the guy walking around, dropping things off outside the RNC and the DNC. The government wants to keep him in custody, but something strange is happening here because the defense team also came out, and tomorrow we have a detention hearing that's scheduled. But the defense says it's not just a detention hearing, okay? It's a preliminary hearing as well. And the government needs to establish probable cause tomorrow at that hearing, or else. Of course, we're going to go to that hearing. But we'll talk about what the defense is saying, because if we have a confession, if this individual, Brian Cole Jr., is just so willing to accept responsibility for these actions, why is he fighting this so hard? Why is he trying to get his case dismissed literally tomorrow? So we'll see what the judge has to say, right? If the government can't indict him by tomorrow and they're not prepared to move forward with their preliminary hearing, what are they going to do? They've got to dump the case because they are not ready to move forward. So we'll go through this. We'll see exactly what's going on. I've got some reaction. We're coming up on the 5th anniversary of January 6th. So Nancy Pelosi is very excited about that. We've got a clip of her, and of course, the president was out yesterday. We had a very rare Zelensky Sunday sighting at Mar-a-Lago, and the president came out and was talking about 2020 and how rigged it was, and how Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest of them were engineering this thing to go down because, as Nancy Pelosi said, she let it happen. So all of that we're going to get into. We got some great filings to read. We're excited about it. And then we'll be at the hearing tomorrow. So all this stuff came crashing in, and it will be debated in court in session tomorrow on Tuesday. So all that coming up. Then we'll turn our attention to what the latest is with this Somali Minnesota fraud scandal, because it's getting worse. And a lot of people are piling in on this thing saying we want charges, we want repercussions for the fraudsters who ripped off Americans. But we're also learning that they took that money that they stole from us and they donated it to the Democrats. I know how shocking that is. But the Democrats getting rich off of the American taxpayer. So we'll go through some of the latest on this. Kash Patel came out over the weekend with an update talking about what's going to be happening there in Minnesota with the Somali fraudsters. And we've got some problems with the judges there, okay? So the fact that people are being charged is one thing. That's great. But what happens when judges take those charges and they just dismiss them because they say, that's a little bit racist against the Somalis? You can't do that. So we'll look at what happened here, because this judge, remember her, we talked about it before, but her name is Judge Sarah West, and she basically acquitted a Somali fraudster. And so just like Tim Walz and Ilhan and the rest of them are all in bed with these Somalis, they enable their criminality, and then they get a windfall. They catch some revenue and some money back in the form of donations that goes back their direction. And so she, of course, dismissed this case. We'll take a look at what the actual charges were. So they charged this guy, the Somali fraudster, but a judge didn't let it happen. Just like we deported an illegal alien gangbanging MS-13 wife beater, and judges let him back in. So we have a real judge problem in America. We'll talk about what's going on with the Somalians. We have some great clips that are floating around. Lance Gooden shared this one, talking about how even the cops, okay, chief of police is out there. He's like, we love Somalians. We love them. Yeah, no, they can rip us off. I don't care. They can steal all my money. They can steal my wife. I don't care. So we got that. Then we've got some other reaction. This woman was out saying this is also going on in Ohio. It's not limited to Minnesota. And Nick Shirley, man, the man of the hour, the guy who was really exploding over the weekend. And I think his video's up to like 100 million views on X. Woo, baby, that's so good. So anyways, he was out on Fox. We'll listen to what he had to say. We got Ron Johnson's responding to the Somali fraud, and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, all in the house. And so it's going to be a great stream, my friends. Very glad that you're here and with us. Thanks for hitting the road with us. We have been doing some sightseeing as well. So yesterday we went to the Native American Museum. Wow. We also went to the Washington Botanic Gardens. Very fun stuff. Tomorrow we're going into the Federal District Court of DC. We're there for the pipe bomb hearing. We're excited about that. So we'll be here all week doing some live streams, and then we'll be doing some walk and talks and some video updates from out on the streets, including tomorrow. And so we're very glad that you're here. Thanks for subscribing and joining us. Thanks for accommodating us, jumping on here a little bit early. And members, stick around because we're going to come back as soon as the show is wrapping up. We're going to have our members only after party, baby, and see what you have to say. Our YouTube membos, locals membos, and if you're watching on Substack, we'll see you over there as well. But it's a beautiful day. Happy Monday. Hopefully you're still on a little bit of a break, a little vacation, soaking it up the final few days of the year. And then we've got New Year's coming up soon too. It's been jamming. All right. So now, without any further ado, let's get into it in the Brian Cole case. Strange things happening in the alleged J6 pipe bomber case. This one is against Brian Cole Jr., the guy who got arrested 5 years after allegedly dropping those bombs off. And his defense team now submitted this. It's almost challenging the government, and the government is not planning on being challenged. We're going to break down what this means exactly. But they're saying, hey, judge, listen, we've got a hearing coming up. The government is considering this a detention hearing. And if you look it up on the court docket, as we did, you can see that's exactly how they got it categorized as. So United States of America versus Cole, the hearing coming up in front of a magistrate judge, so kind of a lower level, entry level judge who handles a lot of the basic stuff, is named Matthew Sharbaugh. And that's going to be happening tomorrow, 1 p.m. And they call it, as you can see here, a detention hearing for the alleged J6 pipe bomber. But the defense is saying it's not a detention hearing, okay? It's actually also a preliminary hearing. And as we've discussed here many times before, there are a couple ways that you can indict somebody, or rather criminally charge somebody. One of those ways is an indictment. So an indictment, as we know, is a panel of grand jurors. They get together, government prosecutors present their evidence. The grand juries make a decision about probable cause and whether or not this case warrants charges. So they come back out, you see them sign, we got a true bill, boom, charges are dropped, that's an indictment. Now that has not happened in the Brian Cole Jr. case, in the pipe bomber case yet. He's only been charged via criminal complaint. That's where you see a prosecutor draft the cover sheet, draft the charges on there, and then you have an affidavit that's attached from an FBI agent or some sort of investigator. And then that is how they establish the probable cause. But that's a little different than a grand jury proceeding, which is done in secret. You can challenge when a direct complaint is filed, not an indictment. You can challenge that and have a preliminary hearing to bring in that actual agent who said that there is probable cause, put him on the stand, cross-examine him, and it's like a mini trial. Oh, it's a lower threshold. It's not to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's only to establish probable cause such that the charges can proceed. So in the Brian Cole case, right now we have a criminal complaint filed. We have a preliminary hearing that should be coming up. The defense is saying that is happening tomorrow. Now, the DOJ has also come down and they said, no, it's really just a detention hearing and we want to keep him in custody because they say Brian Cole Jr. gave a detailed confession that justifies his continued detention pending the prosecution. So we got kind of two sides that are almost talking past each other. We're waiting to see what the judge says. But if the government is not prepared to conduct their preliminary hearing tomorrow, they're going to be in big trouble. So here's what the defense said. As you can see, we're scheduled for a hearing Tuesday, December 30th, squeezing it in before the end of the year. And Brian Cole Jr.'s The borderline autistic person who was arrested 5 years later, they said that they found some receipts. They reconfigured the cell phone records and towers and were able to identify some additional sources in between two towers. Thing goes on and on. But the defense is submitting this one. They say, all right, listen, Judge, we all know that we're scheduled for a hearing on Tuesday. December 30th, we'll be there. But we want to confirm that the hearing that is scheduled tomorrow, which we'll be going to, will proceed as both hearings, not just a detention hearing, which is a much simpler hearing. It's not as complex. You don't have to bring in officers generally and have a full-blown trial. But they want it to be both a preliminary hearing and a detention hearing. Okay, so both things are happening tomorrow. In other words, they want it to be turning into like a mini trial. Also, they want help to enforce the timeline and the remedies under the rules. If the government objects to a preliminary hearing on that date, they're out of time. We have to bring a hearing within a certain amount of time, or the defense has certain rights, right to a speedy trial, and to have these things adjudicated quickly. So if we don't have that, then they're saying we're going to execute remedies under the law. Mr. Cole, the alleged pipe bomber, has not waived his right to a preliminary hearing, and he does not consent to any adjournment past Tuesday, December 30th. So if you can't establish probable cause tomorrow on the 30th, you're out of time. You're out of luck. You got to dismiss this case against the pipe bomber, is what they're saying. The parties previously set December 30th as the date for a detention hearing. Now, the defense did not waive the right to a preliminary hearing at all. We've never done this. And if Brian Cole Jr. came out and gave this whopping confession, why are they still fighting all of these things? Why are they still trying to get the case dismissed? Why aren't they just saying, what is the best plea deal you can give us right now? We'll take it. To the contrary, it is consistently the defense, Brian Cole, expected the preliminary hearing to happen on the 30th. Now, on December 28th, we were here in front of you, Judge, and when pressed on the question of proceeding with the preliminary hearing on December 30th, saying, are you guys ready to go, prosecutors? The government wanted to push the date back. They said, no, we're not ready. We need to push it back to January 7th or January 8th. Isn't that apropos? Yeah. Now, that request comes too late and does not meet the rigorous standards of the rules. We have a certain amount of time in which we can demand a preliminary hearing. We're demanding it. So the court should confirm that the December 30th date, that's tomorrow, is the preliminary hearing and the detention hearing. Okay, both things need to happen, and direct the government to be prepared to present its evidence in support of probable cause. And if they're not ready to go tomorrow, there needs to be a repercussion and a dismissal, really. Federal rules of procedure and these other U.S. statutes, they work in tandem. They ensure that any defendant, in this case the J6 pipe bomber allegedly, anybody who's arrested has a prompt probable cause determination. And normally the grand jury will find that, right? They'll sit around independently and make that decision. But here, that has not happened yet. For an in-custody defendant like Brian Cole Jr. is, the preliminary hearing must be set no later than 14 days after he originally showed up in court. He did that. Now we have not had a determination. So you can extend this if there are extraordinary circumstances. You can get some more time. If justice requires the delay, then you can postpone this. But what happens if the deadline is missed? Discharge from custody. So Brian Cole Jr. gets released. You got to let him out. Now, in its email to defense counsel, prosecutors, the government, has identified no extraordinary circumstances. They're just saying, actually, we just need some more time. The reasons referenced from the prosecutors are ordinarily scheduling matters and the possibility of a forthcoming indictment. So they're sitting around saying, it's Christmas, man. It's New Year's. We need some more time. 14 days? We've got everybody's on vacation. Everybody's home, eating extra leftovers and enjoying themselves. So we need an extension of time. So just bump it out to January 7th, January 8th, leave us alone. Then we'll come back and we'll do it. They say no. The defense is holding them to the rules. And this is good defense work just in general, by the way. It's we're always ready. It's called WAR. We're always ready. It's good business policy too. Be ready for everything that comes up. If something bad happens, doesn't matter. I don't even care. We'll have it solved in 2 minutes because we're always ready. We're ready for war. So here they're saying, I don't care about the holidays. Do the rules say that you should all go on vacation for Christmas? No, our client is in custody. He's got 14 days. That's it. So prosecutors, get it together and either indict him or come prepared for your hearing and get ready for a mini trial. Rule 5, and they're not even giving them a good excuse, right? Extraordinary circumstances. It's Christmas. It happens every year. It's not an extraordinary circumstance at all, is what the defense is arguing. Now, Rule 5 does not allow a hearing date to be merely extended to accommodate the pace of a grand jury investigation. You don't get months to just convene a grand jury and take your sweet time to go prosecute these people. And where the defendant does not consent, as he does not here, Brian Cole Jr., the Pipebomber, Rule 5.1 imposes a far more rigorous standard, including the Speedy Trial Act and more. So the framework here is clear. The rules codify the time limits for a preliminary hearing. And if prosecutors, you're not ready, that's your problem, not our clients. If an arrested person is not accorded the preliminary hearing within the fixed period of time, he shall be discharged from custody without prejudice to any further proceedings. Let him out. Now, courts enforce that mandate too, saying, I can conceive of no other sanctions. If you can't get this done appropriately, you got to let him out. Prior case law says that. Now, to be clear, the defense for the alleged pipe bomber, Mr. Cole, they say he did consent to an extension of some things until Tuesday, December 30th, but he has not consented to any further delay at all. And so, as a result, December 30th is the day. We want a proper, timely hearing for a preliminary hearing, and we demand it. The government's desire to accommodate ordinary scheduling or the pace of a grand jury, like ordinaries, it's Christmas time, which I agree with. It's Christmas. We all want to spend our time, with our families and all the things. But you're a prosecutor, and so if the judge says you got to be ready, you got to be ready. Or the pace of a grand jury, they're like, well, we can't get someone impaneled because of the holidays. That's not a basis to continue the hearing. They've already had 3 weeks to prepare this. So the court should therefore confirm that December 30th will be a preliminary hearing, and the government better show up and be ready to argue their case. They should be prepared to present evidence to establish probable cause, and the detention hearing should be heard on the same day. So the government has already told us that they're going to seek detention, they're going to invoke a rebuttable presumption, and coordinating this determines with a preliminary probable cause determination, avoids serious litigation, conserves judicial resources, and protects his rights. So we're going to bundle all this up into one. And man, if they can't win, if they can't establish probable cause, then he's definitely not being detained. So consistent with Rule 5.1, the court should make clear no continuance will be granted. So prosecutors, Pam Bondi, you guys show up tomorrow, be ready, is what they say. We'll see what the judge says. Now, if the preliminary hearing is not held within a specific time period, you should order him to be immediately discharged. So, in sum, the defense says, we are respectfully asking this court, grant our motion in full. Confirm that the hearing on 12:30 tomorrow will proceed as both the preliminary hearing and the detention hearing. Direct the government, you better be prepared to present evidence, and deny any other further continuances. If the hearing is not held and no indictment is intervening, and they may get one today, it might drop tonight, to order Cole's immediate discharge from custody, signed by his defense attorneys called John Shorman, Mario Bernard, Human Dignity and Rights out of Atlanta, and some other guy called Alex Little, and he is out of Tennessee. So a bunch of attorneys coming in. And this is very aggressive defense practice, which we appreciate here. And the government does need to be prepared, right? We do have a presumption of innocence and the right to a speedy trial and the right to hearings and the determination of probable cause. This is what we do not want to have happen, like we saw in the County Monte Cristo, where Edmond Dantes was locked away in the Chateau Reef for ages with, what are my crimes? What are my crimes? Nobody tells him. So you have to have due process when you're a citizen being prosecuted, and they're demanding that. Now, The government is saying this is ridiculous. It's the middle of the holidays. You expect all of our prosecutors to be working on Christmas and New Year's, and this is standard stuff. We shut down the government all the time for the holidays. And it is true. There are continuances all the time. Judges don't want to be in these courtrooms either. They're like, yeah, all right. Do you need a continuance like December 3rd? You need a continuance, counsel? Yeah, we do. Like, how about January 15th? You're like, 45 days? Sure, we'll take it. Because they don't want to be back here either. So this has been a little different situation because we've got federal judges that in certain cases really want to be there. Like they'll bend over backwards to make sure they get assigned the case and show up there because they want to use these cases as tools of political power inappropriately. We'll see if that happens in this matter, but that is what the defense said. And of course, we're going to be refreshing this thing aggressively to see if we get a ruling today. And we just got a new filing also as well. So we'll come back to that. But here is what the government said in response. So now the prosecutors have responded. They say, no. We just have a detention hearing that's coming up, and we really want to keep this guy detained. Why? Prosecutors say that Brian Cole Jr. gave a detailed confession. And we're going to go through this and walk through their timeline and ask ourselves if this seems legitimate or not, and reconstruct their claims about what he ultimately did. But if what they say is true, if this guy did come out and give a blanket confession, gave non-public details, and explained exactly what went down, the government might be sitting on a treasure trove of evidence, much of which we still have not seen at this early stage. We haven't even established probable cause officially on the record yet, right? We have the complaint that has been filed, but they're challenging that. So there may be just huge sums of info that are being held back that we can't see yet. So we keep that in mind as we read it. But here's what they say. All right, government prosecutors to the judge. All right, judge, listen, we're going to be here for a detention hearing tomorrow, and we expect that you find in our favor. Do not release Brian Cole Jr. This guy just confessed to planting 2 bombs that could have exploded at 2 very important buildings. So they write, all right, guess what, judge? We are now here. We made an oral motion previously in this case saying that Brian Cole Jr. needs to be detained. Writing, he is charged by complaint with transporting and planting 2 IEDs, so-called pipe bombs, in the immediate vicinity of the RNC and the DNC. That happened on January 5th in violation of U.S. code. And there were 2 charges, I believe. They didn't split the pipe bombs up into distinct crimes, and they very likely did that strategically because you just bundle them all up. It's like one present. You know how difficult it is to like wrap all the different presents. You have to cut the paper, you have to wrap it, fold it, it's double the tape. And then somebody can identify a problem with the second present. In this case, they just bundled them all up, wrapped them all up, and said this is sufficient, and so nobody can challenge or break apart the charges, win one, and lose the other. So here, following his arrest back on December 4th, Brian Cole Jr., the alleged pipe bomber, waived his Miranda rights and gave a detailed confession to the charged offenses. Miranda rights and detailed confession now out. Now, again, the family said this guy was like borderline autistic. So does he even know what those things are? We also saw, by the way, we covered this on a prior video, but they sent in individuals to go do an assessment of this guy. The defense attorneys did too. And that was a little bit a while ago, but there was a motion here that they sent in and lots of people coming in here. There it is though. Unopposed motion for an order to allow in-person professional visits by Brian Cole Jr. And we covered this in a prior video, but they sent in internet addiction experts, people who were very focused on gaming obsessions and things like that. So they may see that this dude is not even mentally well, which is of course perfect if you need a patsy. But we'll see what those experts come back out and say to the court. But he sat down, Miranda rights waived, detailed confession, saying the government now wants to hold him in detention, okay? This is a federal crime of terrorism, maximum term of 10 years or more. And upon a finding of probable cause, which has not happened yet, that he violated these rules, the federal bail statute creates a rebuttable presumption that no conditions will secure the community's safety, and so we cannot release him. Now, if he wants to rebut that presumption to say, no, look how safe I am, I'm not a threat, evidence is actually going to exonerate me, then he can overcome that and still get out of custody. Now, the defendant, in this case Cole, he cannot rebut this presumption considering the extreme and profoundly serious nature of his crimes. There's overwhelming evidence of his guilt, they say, and the years in the aftermath he spent deceiving those around him. Nobody could find this guy for 5 years. Incredible. All the cell phone data was corrupted. FBI's like, we don't know what to do. And the intolerable risk that he's going to resort to violence again makes it so you can't release him. So detain this guy pending trial because he's dangerous. Background. All right, Judge, here's what happened. On December 4th, this guy was arrested this year. A complaint was unsealed, 2 counts. He made his initial appearance on the 5th, and he was held pending a detention hearing. The detention hearing is scheduled for the 30th. Now, the charges against this guy arise from manufacturing, transporting, and planting 2 pipe bombs around Washington, D.C. on January 5th. He planted the first bomb at approximately 7:54 in the immediate vicinity of the DNC headquarters. He planted the second bomb at approximately 8:16 right near the RNC. The 2 locations are 0.2 miles apart. And we watched the FBI video on this. They gave us some very good details about all the loops he was doing, and he was double backing, going this way, turning around, dropping it off, looping over here, up and down the streets, circling, dropped it off over there. Earlier that evening, you can see, at about 7:10 p.m., he was driving his 2017 Nissan Sentra. He took the South Capitol Street exit going down the I-395 South, and he passed a license plate reader that recorded his vehicle and tag information. And these are everywhere in DC. I've noticed these a lot just walking around these past few days here. They just post up these Capitol cars, and they've got license plate scanners going both directions. So it's scanning every vehicle. All the vehicles around here are being scanned constantly. Approximately 24 minutes later, which is so wild that we couldn't find this guy for 5 years because every single vehicle is being scanned. Approximately 24 minutes later, at about 7:34, surveillance video first captured him walking approximately 1/2 mile from the South Capitol Street exit near the intersection of 1st and North Carolina. As captured on video, seen below, the defendant was holding a backpack in his hand by the top strap, wearing dark pants, a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark gloves, Nike Air Max shoes, a face mask, and a hood that obscured his face. We saw that photo many times and even saw the video, and we're asking about that kind of hip sway as this dude was turning the corner. And one reason I'm so excited to go to this hearing is to see if I can watch him walking. I want to see the pipe bomber walk into the courtroom and take a seat. Now, the footage also showed the defendant, who investigators from the FBI, based on height analysis of the video, estimated to stand at least 5 feet 7 inches tall with an error rate of 1.1 inches. He put on a pair of eyeglasses, scanned the area as depicted below. They say he is approximately 5 foot 6 inches tall and wears corrective eyeglasses, as we've seen. So there is the pipe bomber walking around the street. Then at 7:39, about 5 minutes after he was first captured, his cell phone interacted with 2 cell towers consistent with him being in the area at the intersection of D Street and South Capitol Street. We've got surveillance footage here. Records obtained from the cell provider listed the relevant sector of one of these towers as facing north as of February 2021. This might be where the big break happened. However, the provider updated its records to reflect that it did, in fact, face east. That would provide coverage over this intersection. So you've seen these up, right? All the panels that you'll see on these tall towers, they direct the beams one direction. Now, the eastward orientation was consistent with FBI drive tests conducted in January and February 21. Based on the information available, the FBI assesses that the provider record listing the relevant tower sector as facing north was an error that was corrected in April. Okay, so it's not like a new discovery. February was a mistake. April, they fixed it. And then the FBI still sat around for 5 years and couldn't figure it out. And that on January 5th, the tower faced east. Now, there was a picture here of these towers. as you can see right here. So tower, it looks like 5 was the tower they were referencing. 2 cell towers. And we'll come back to that. But here is what the angles of the towers look like. So you can see you got 2 and 3. And there's probably another one that's beaming this other direction, right? Capturing that way. But we're interested in this region. So what towers are capturing this region? 4 got a little bit of it. 1 kind of missed it. 5 got it pretty good, saying it's actually facing east. So now we can see maybe who's in between these 2 towers, right? Or who's in between these 2 towers. This one was pinging off here, so that means he had to be in these areas. He's not over here somewhere, right? Or down here outside of the towers. So we'll come back to that as they explain, but that's where they're saying they got him. Surveillance video showed that at 7:39, the defendant walked westbound on D Street, then turned south on Capitol Street. 5 minutes later, 7:44, his cell phone then interacted with another tower consistent with him being in Ivy Street. That's 1 block bounded by Canal Street and others. Surveillance then showed that at 7:44, he walked east on Ivy Street and southeast. And so it would be very interesting to go and rewalk this. Perhaps we'll do that just to see kind of the timing on this. How long does it take you to walk around these places? About 15 minutes later at 7:59, his cell phone interacted with the cell tower consistent with him being in the area of these streets. Surveillance video also showed that at 7:59 then, the defendant walked southbound on New Jersey Avenue. Southeast, then turn eastbound. The intersection is 0.1 miles from the DNC, where he placed the first bomb at 7:54 p.m. So they're following him around. And again, they're just kind of recreating this. This is the path of the pipe bomber, but it's not really giving us indication that he was the pipe bomber. Not yet. We got much more to go. About 20 minutes later, at 8:14, his cell phone, the defendant's cell phone, interacted with the cell tower consistent with him being in the area of these locations. Surveillance video showed that at 8:14, he then exited Rumsey Court, walked westbound through an alley between the Capitol Hill Club and the RNC, then walked northbound this direction. Video also showed that he then returned to Rumsey Court. Last video captured him walking eastbound at 8:18 p.m., and based on the video, looks like he placed a second pipe bomb at 8:16 p.m. And again, this one had some questions about it because the lady who discovered this pipe bomb went down into this location. She was doing her laundry. She said, I went down at about 12 o'clock to do my laundry on my lunch break. When I was down there, didn't see a pipe bomb. Went back up, waited for my laundry to finish, went back down, then I saw the pipe bomb. So she said she found it on J6, which is debatable. Nobody else is really saying that. I mean, the rest of the official reports say it came out the day before, so maybe she's misremembering something. But normally, I think you chalk that up to a misremembering. But the pipe bombs only had 60-minute timers, so it actually makes more logical sense. If you wanted the bombs to go off on J6, you drop them off within an hour of when you wanted them to go off. So that actually, I think, has some plausibility to it. But they're saying that he was doing loop-de-loos, and then they're just kind of presuming, inferring through circumstantial evidence that he dropped the bomb off there. We didn't see him on the bench in this location like we did on the bench outside the DNC. And circumstantial evidence is very valid, right? It's like prosecutors often use the analogy about snow falling on the ground. Like you go to bed, you wake up, there's snow on the ground. Did it snow? Probably. You can infer that it did. Circumstantially, snow's on the ground, looks like it probably came from the sky. There are other explanations. Somebody could have came with a big dump truck and dumped snow all over the place, but probably less plausible. Is there any evidence of that? No, not really. So then circumstantial evidence can win the day. And that's what they're saying happened here with the other pipe bomb, because he's bouncing around and then the bomb is just there, right there. So then finally, at 8:23 and 8:24, then his cell phone also again interacts with the cell tower consistent with him being in the area of Rumsey Court, where he was last captured on video about 6 minutes later and then poof, disappeared like Houdini. The graphic below illustrates his interactions with nearby cell towers in relation to the DNC and the RNC as he placed the bombs. Okay, so you can see he's walking around. When he's at the DNC, he's probably pinging off cell tower 2 right there. Boom, boom. He's walking around, pings there. Now, he was also, they said, a DoorDash driver, so maybe he's just dropping off a delivery somewhere. But 4 would also ping him again. And then if he's walking, let's say, outside of Tower 4, he's walking around the RNC, doing loop-de-loos over here, boom, Tower 5 picks him up. And maybe Tower 5 was the one that they didn't have a good eye on. One of these was saying it was going the other direction, right? So 5, they said, well, maybe it was pointing south, but it wasn't. Then they corrected that early in April. So it's not a new discovery. It's not like Kash Patel and the new FBI came out and like, oh, look what we discovered. They actually were pointing the wrong direction. They figured that out pretty quickly. Still couldn't find the guy. So you see one off cell tower 1, 739. Looks like he's probably coming in this way. 744, he's pinging off cell tower 2. 759, then he's pinging off cell tower 3. So at some point he kind of is, walking around this area. Cell tower 3 picks him up. Then 814, he's back over near the RNC. Then at 823 and 824, boom, again, he's getting picked up on number 5. Now, that's the cell phone. There's other explanations for that. Again, he could be a DoorDash driver, or he could be walking around dropping off pipe bombs. Now, the pipe bomb that he planted near the RNC and the DNC did not detonate as intended, they say, and were not discovered until 1 p.m. on January 6, 2021. Kamala Harris went and parked right next to it at the DNC and sat there. Cops came up, looked at it, and just kept moving around. The hazardous devices section responded, and they performed a render safe procedure on both devices. Subsequently then, the FBI assessed that the 2 devices were both IEDs. They both contained a main explosive charge, a fusing system, and a container. They've said that a lot, but again, the question was always, could they explode and injure anybody? Could they kill anybody? And that has been debatable. I haven't seen a clear answer on that. The FBI also assessed that the IEDs used a hard metal container, metal pipe nipples, and end caps, which showed that weapon characteristics were present. The FBI recovered the components of the devices. They were processed as evidence and submitted to the lab. Then the FBI lab issued a report about the 2 devices, opining that the submitted items consisted of 2 disrupted destructive devices, and that the use of a hard metal container showed that weapon characteristics were present. The FBI explosives examiner, he assessed that the pipe bombs were constructed using all the components necessary to explode, and that they were viable explosive devices from the FBI. But big explosive devices or injuring explosive devices, can you give us an analysis of the explosive materials inside? Both pipe bombs were manufactured using a collection of components and a main explosive charge. The components included a 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipple, end caps affixed to the pipe, 14-gauge electrical wire in red and black alligator clips to connect the wires, 9-volt battery, 9-volt battery connector, white kitchen timer, paper clip, steel wool, homemade black powder. The general construction of the bomb is illustrated below. So, and we've looked at this before, but it's worth looking at again. Main charge container. This is the 1-inch pipe nipple that would be filled with the explosive material. Then you put in some steel wool igniters, shove that in there, put the alligator clips onto the steel wool, connect the steel wool to a 9-volt battery. We've all done that. You see it ignites the steel wool, so it will create heat inside the container, which will ignite the explosive device, the materials, and then cause the bomb to go off, right? Theoretically. Now, we then complete the circuit with a 60-minute kitchen timer. And the kitchen timer, to it, is not even using the innards of the timer to close the circuit. It's actually just got a paper clip right here. And that paper clip is super glued onto the kitchen timer, as we've seen before. You have one in your kitchen. So then as soon as the timer hits 0, the paper clip makes contact, completes the circuit, the whole thing goes off. Which to me, I suppose would work, but you got 60 minutes. You got to get out of there in 60 minutes. So if you're dropping those the night before and they don't go off, it's pretty interesting. Were you intending them to go off? Did the circuit actually close once the timer expired? Did the timer Was it even, set to like tick? Lots of questions. So that's what we've got. Those are the bombs. And it looks very rudimentary, obviously. But part of the thesis was, well, what if this was a training operation device? Okay, you need some amount of explosive materials so that dogs will trigger off of the smell, off the scent. But you don't want it to actually explode and kill anybody. So yeah, it's a viable explosive device. Like maybe it would, kind of pop and then like smoke out the sides or something. Would it explode? Would it go critical based on the explosive inside? That's what we got on that whole story. So the FBI then obtained records for his checking account. They also got 3 of his credit cards from 18 to 2021. Records for the 3 additional credit cards were also obtained from 18 to 2025. FBI looked at all the transactions on all of the accounts. Between 2018 in 2020, the alleged pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr., he purchased numerous components that he used to make these bombs, both of them. He purchased these components primarily from physical retail locations in Northern Virginia, and they've got it all chronicled down here below. All of them. So 9-volt battery connector, he purchased 5 of those at Micro Center in 2019 and 2020. Okay, like the election had not even been close to happening. Same thing here, 6:30, way before the election. He got 2 timers at Walmart, very convenient, used both of those. So for the pipe, for those connectors, how many of those did he need per bomb? Looks like maybe just 1 of those, right? 1 of those connectors per bomb. So he used 2, he bought 5. 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipples, he bought 6 at Home Depot. And maybe bought those in pairs of 2. In June, he bought maybe a pair. June 8th, he bought another pair before the election. Then after the election, 11/16, November 4th, 2020 comes and goes. Trump loses the election, stolen from him. He goes to Home Depot, maybe buys 2 more pipes. Then he buys 12 black iron end caps and the galvanized end caps. And I thought this was strange. We pointed this out when we were reading it. If you were a construction worker, as I used to do, build swimming pools, we would go buy galvanized end pipe. We'd also use black pipe for certain things too. But the pipes are for different features, for different things. Some rust, some don't. Some are for water, some are for gas. Some are approved for inspection, some are not. And otherwise, they're just kind of functional. Like if you don't need them for water usage, you don't need them for natural gas usage, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're making a bomb, I don't think it matters if you're using galvanized or black. But the fact that he bought 2 different kinds, like you go to Home Depot all the time and they're just out of end caps. You're like, dang it, I need one of those. Well, I need a galvanized one. Well, okay, we'll use a black one for now and then we'll swap it out with the galvanized later. So again, he bought all of this stuff, most of it, before the election. So the galvanized pipe he brought on 310, and same with the black irons. Bought those all before the election except this last batch that came after the election, back again on 11/16. So on 11/16, that's a pretty interesting purchase date because he buys the nipples and 2 black iron end caps. Let's see if he also buys anything else on the 16th. Because he's like making these by piecemeal. So then all the 14 gauge red wire, 350 feet of that, that's a lot. Bro just needs like 6 feet. He brought 350 feet. So what was that for? Was he doing construction? Was he doing something else? What is all that for? And he bought that over 4 dates, all of them before the election. Black, because in his confession, he's going to say he was very upset about the election. So 14 gauge black wire, 150 feet of that, again, Home Depot before the election. More red wire, another 100 feet, another 100 feet of black wire on other dates. Those came after the election, 11/24. Then he bought steel wool, 12/4 after the election, which is critical ignition device for the bombs. Sulfur. He bought some sulfur from Amazon for whatever reason, but that was back in 2018. So we don't know. That was 1 pound of sulfur from Amazon. Just buy your bomb materials right online. Get a 2-day delivery. It's great. In addition to purchasing each type of component used to make the bombs, he then purchased equipment for manufacturing of the bombs. So those are the materials of the bombs. And I think we've basically accounted for everything. Except the alligator clips. I don't think we saw those. Are those on this list? No. So alligator clips may have come from somewhere else. We've got everything else basically accounted for. wire, steel wool, pipes, nipples, battery connector, kitchen timers, no paper clips, but we'll see. Maybe he just had those around the house. So he also then needed to make the bombs once you got all the materials. He bought safety glasses July 8th. He bought a wire stripping tool November 14th. Well, I've got safety glasses. I've got wire stripping tools. I've got wire nuts. I've got sandpaper in my home. Wire nuts, which are used to join wires together, those little, yellow or typically orange things. You put the wires, screw them together. November 14th. Sandpaper, he got that November 21. So that's after the election. Again, after the election. And this one's after the election. So July 8th is when he bought the safety glasses. He also got a machinist file and a tool for shaping and smoothing metal parts on November 21. Protective gloves, disinfecting wipes if you're going to be making the explosive innards. November 24th, all after the election. So after planting the bombs, he then continued to purchase more. That's weird. So he plants the bombs on January 5th. The bombs don't go off because he doesn't know how to make them go off, apparently. He then continued to purchase more things. The last identified purchase was on August 13th, 2022. So this criminal mastermind has just beaten the FBI for years. Nobody can find out who he is. Stephen D'Antuono, the FBI special agent in charge in there in Washington, he's like, look, data got corrupted. Weirdest thing, cell phone data. Nobody can find the guy. I know. It was like a circus comedy routine. But he thinks he's like Dexter or something. Like he can escape everything. So then he buys even more. August 13th, he goes and buys another timer. He's like, maybe I'll blow up the Capitol next. He buys, again, 1x8 pipe nipples. Like, what is he buying all these for? Is he doing some plumbing out there? And he just needs to do it quickly or something? Black iron end cap, galvanized end cap, more wire. Okay, that's more reasonable than 350 feet. You just buy the 50-foot spool. That's it. He buys some more steel wool. Then he gets the alligator clips. Okay, so we already had the alligator clips. That was on 1/23/2021. This is crazy. This dude's crazy, man. He almost blows up 2 federal buildings, according to the national media. Remember at 1/23/2021, we were in the middle of insurrection fever, man. This whole friggin' country was, democracy is dying constantly. So he just goes and he's like, yeah, that was great. I'm going to go buy some more. Let's do another one. Anyway, so that's what he purchased. More black iron end caps, more galvanized end caps. And I got it, I'll be honest with you. When I used to do swimming pool construction, we would connect swimming pool heaters to natural gas, and we would use galvanized pipe to do it. Pretty sure it was galvanized. And we'd use galvanized pipe. And you would go, and when you would go to the Home Depot or to the Lowe's, you didn't know exactly how you were going to connect the pipe coming out of the ground of natural gas, usually sometimes 2 inches, down into a 1-inch input into the back of the Stay Right 400,000K BTU heater. So 400K BTU heater. So you have to buy a bunch of various lengths. So you buy 1 by 8 inches, you buy 1 by 6 inches, 1 by 4 inch, and you buy maybe 2 or 3 of those. You buy a bunch of 90s, you buy a bunch of couplers, you buy end cap, and you then figure it out like a Lego set on the scene. Sometimes you'll measure it, but you still, the 1 inch was, the 4 inches was a little bit too short. I actually need the 6 inch. So you swap it out. So if he's doing something, anything like that would feel normal to me. I think anybody who's purchased pipes for even going to, connecting your sprinklers together, you go buy a couple extra 90s, couple extra couplers, whatever you need. So, but again, in response to that, we have not heard anything about him being in construction or doing plumbing or any of those things. So why does he need any of those materials? But all of that being said, finally we get to the confession. Dun, 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 dun. They say he was arrested and then he confessed to everything. On December 4th, law enforcement executed an arrest warrant for Brian Cole Jr. in his home, and they took him into custody. Search warrants were executed on his person, his home, his Nissan Sentra, and his workplace in Fairfax, Virginia. Wonder what that workplace is. I know he was working, I think, for his family at one point. Now, a Samsung cellular device was seized from his person. A forensic review of the device's contents showed that between December 2020 and December 2025, the device recorded 794 events identified as a factory reset or a wipe, including a wipe event approximately 3 hours before his arrest on December 4th, 2025. This is wild. The first factory reset or wipe event took place on December 15, 2020. The next event did not occur until July 15, 2022. From that date, the factory reset or wipe events occurred at least once a week. Some days, the device appears to have been wiped multiple times in the same day. Yeah, and that's my thought process. The guy almost sounds crazy. Like, what are you doing? 943 resets of your phone. 943 wipes, just wiping it like multiple times a week. 943 wipes from over 5 years? That's crazy. So is he like schizophrenic? Is he insane? Or is he a criminal mastermind? You know, some people are just like paranoid. And I've talked to many people like this. I've had people come into my law firm and say, hey man, the government put a listening device in my phone. And they're resetting it constantly, like literally. Resetting it, not even using it, bringing it in. Here, look in here. They say, Rob, look at my phone. The government put something in there. I'm like, well, where'd they put it in here? They're like, they unscrewed it. I'm like, how'd they do that? I'm like, it's inside. I don't know how they did it. I'm like, okay, let's go get you a new phone. Why don't you go get a new phone? Well, they're going to hack that one too. So they just are resetting it constantly. I've literally seen this. So maybe that's that. Maybe he's just a little off and he's not trying to cover anything up. Or maybe he is exactly trying to cover something up. And it's pretty suspicious that the day he's getting arrested, 3 hours before his arrest, he's wiping it again. Weird. Yeah, now, it's right. Our phones are all bugged anyways. They don't need to install anything. It's all just built in there. Inside the defendant's home, so they go and they arrest this dude. Now, law enforcement recovered, among other evidence, a Home Depot shopping bag containing 3 black iron end caps, 1 galvanized end cap, 2 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipples, a recent Home Depot receipt dated November 16th. They still had that receipt 5 years later. Wow. That's amazing. It's almost like a passport falling out of a 747 after it crashes into the World Trade Center. This is actually way more believable than that. But for 2 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipples, 3 black iron end caps, and gloves located inside a closet accessible only through his bathroom. A Lowe's shopping bag containing 2 galvanized end caps located in the same closet. 14-gauge red wire strippers located inside the garage. Inside his car, recovered, among other things, another Home Depot receipt from August 2022, 2 years later, hand sanitizer, 2 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipples, work gloves, Home Depot shopping bag containing 2 1-inch by 8-inch pipe nipples. Again, they're all the same size, which is a little bit strange too. I think if you're in construction, you're gonna have multiple sizes. You know, 8 inches is like perfect for a bomb. But if you're actually doing anything with the pipes, you're gonna need other sizes. A Home Depot shopping bag containing 2 black iron end caps and 2 galvanized end caps, a 9-volt battery. Just buys one of those. So, following his arrest, Brian Cole Jr. is transported to Virginia to the Washington field office. Hey, Brian, you're busted. Would you like to talk to us? He says, sure. Great. We'd like you to sign this waiver of your Miranda rights. Would you like to do that? He says, sure. And then he talks for multiple hours. And again, just to be clear, the family said he's like borderline autistic, doesn't talk to anybody. During the interview, which was video recorded, the defendant initially denied manufacturing any of this. That is curious. He initially denied manufacturing, transporting, and planting the pipe bombs. That's common. When asked about his whereabouts on January 5th, he said, well, I drove my Nissan to Washington, D.C. by myself. I was going to attend a protest concerning the outcome of the 2020 election. He said, I didn't agree with what people were doing, just like telling half the country that they just need to ignore it. I don't think that was a good idea, so I went to protest. Now, Brian Cole Jr., quote, has never really been an openly political person and does not discuss politics often with his family to avoid conflict. According to him, no one knows his political views, including his family. He said that he does not align politically with his family members and did not tell them that he was going to a protest in support of President Trump and the rigged election. Now, later in the interview, the defendant explained that after the 2020 election, so he comes in, he says, no, I didn't bomb anything. I was just there protesting. Then interview goes on for another hour or so. Then, he said, when it first seemed like something was off and, quote, stuff started happening, Brian Cole Jr. speaking, he began following the issue closely on YouTube and Reddit, and he felt bewildered with the whole thing. In his view, he said, quote, if people feel that, something as important as voting in the federal election is being tampered with, being relegated, null and void, then someone needs to speak up, right? Someone up top, just at the very least calm things down. The defendant, Brian Cole, he felt that the people up top, including people on both sides, public figures, should not ignore people's grievances, which is true, or call them conspiracy theorists, also true, or bad people, or Nazis, or fascists, which is going around everywhere today. He said instead, if people feel like their votes are just being thrown away, then at the very least, someone should address it. Couldn't agree more. So as the interview continued, the defendant maintained he did not plant the pipe bombs again and again and again. And you're having flashbacks to criminal procedure in law school about coercion and duress during interrogations. However, when the defendant was shown a picture of the Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoe, he admitted that he used to have a pair. He's like, well, I did have a pair of those, and I threw them away because they were old and they were coming apart. Shoes, busted, admitted it. After approximately 2 hours, during which he maintained that he had not placed the bombs for 2 hours, one of the interviewing agents asked this guy, do you want to end the interview? You're saying, we know you placed them. You're saying you didn't place them. Do you want to end this? Brian Cole responded. He said, everything is just blank. This is all a little too much to process right now. Guys like breaking down. The interviewing agent said, well, why don't we just show you some video footage of what you did on January 5th? Would you like to see that? When he was shown an image of himself on surveillance video close in time to the planting of the bombs, he said, I don't even recognize that person. And I have not even previously seen that video. They're like, well, this is you. We know it's you walking around. He's like, what are you talking about? It doesn't look like me. I don't even recognize that person at all. When agents reminded him that lying to them was an additional offense, they said, if you lie to us, it's going to be worse for you. And asked him again, are you this person in this video, Brian? We know it's you. This time, he paused for approximately 15 seconds. He placed his head face down on the table and he answered, hours later, yes, it was me. After the defendant's admission, they said, we knew it. The interviewing agents explained to him, this is the prosecution writing, by the way, it's not me making this up. The interviewing agents explained to him that they could either continue to discuss this or they could stop the interview and take you to jail. They said, well, you just admitted it. We knew it was you this whole time. Do you want to tell us more about this? Because if you keep talking, maybe we can help you out. But if you don't, then maybe we're going to take you right to jail right now because you just admitted it was you. Now we know. So then they explained what an initial appearance is. They said, well, if you want to go to jail right now, we can take you to jail right now. They said an initial appearance is you go in front of a judge. The judge is going to decide whether to release you or hold you in custody. It's a process. Do you want to go do that right now? Because they told him, if you continue the interview, we can take you to court tomorrow. Do you want to sit here and talk with us? Or do you want to go to jail right now? Which one? He said, well, can I process things for a minute? I just need some time to think about this. Can I just think about this? The agent said, sure, we'll give you the room. So they stepped out of the interview room for approximately 20 minutes. He's just sitting in there going, What do I do? It's been hours now. When they returned, he said, okay, I'm ready to talk to you and I'll tell you everything. Come on back here. Then they said, perfect. We're going to have you sign this form and sign some documents, and we're going to delay taking you to jail. If you keep talking to us, we're not going to take you to jail. Then, over the next approximately 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours, he walked the interviewing agents in detail about how he constructed, how he transported, how he planted the bombs, like wide open, floodgates, everything comes out. The defendant explained that he made the black powder in the devices using charcoal, Lily Miller sulfur dust, and potassium nitrate that he purchased from Lowe's. He said he mixed these ingredients into a Pyrex bowl, used a spoon or a measuring cup to pour the black powder into the devices. And now, like, this dude's like a mastermind all of a sudden. He's like, yeah, I put like 15 grams of this and 25 grams of that, measured it in the thing, put it in here. Like assembling it like Rain Man. Now, according to the defendant, he learned to make the black powder from a video game that listed the ingredients. He also viewed various science-related videos on YouTube to assist him in creating the devices. Now, regarding the construction of the devices, Brian Cole explained he used a hand drill and a bit to drill the end caps, used pliers to crimp the alligator clips, used kitchen timers rather than alarm clock timers because they were easier to use. When we asked him about where he kept the bomb-making materials, like, where is this? He explained, I hid them in a closet so no one in my family could find it. Well, where did you assemble these devices? Like, where did you make them? He says, I assembled them in the hours before I drove to DC. And I even cleaned the devices with disinfectant wipes so nobody could find them. Eventually, he admitted that he did not go to DC for a protest. So you really went there to plant these bombs, didn't you, Brian? Yes, I did. I was there to drop the bombs off. So then, he admits everything. Floodgates open, all of it's like dead to rights. Great, you did everything. Walk us through it. He then stated that he transported the devices to Washington on January 5th, 2021, inside a shoebox in the back seat of a Nissan Sentra. He said he wore a mask and hood to avoid ID. He wore gloves to avoid fingerprints. When he arrived in the city, parked his car on D Street, southeast between 2nd and 3rd Street and Folger and Providence Parks. He then placed one of the devices in his backpack, exited the car, walked right towards the DNC. He set the timer on the first device to 60 minutes, planted the bomb near the DNC. He then returned to his car, got the second device, placed that in his backpack, walked to the RNC, again, set another timer for 60 minutes, planted the device. Then he explained he used Google Maps to look up these locations in advance. After planting the devices, went back to his car, left DC, picked up food from a restaurant in Virginia, worked up an appetite, and then returned home. So according to him, he said he was not really thinking about how people would react when the bombs detonated, although he hoped there would be news about it. Well, you go home, realize the bombs didn't go off? Like you're in Virginia, picking up your Chinese food, and the bombs don't go off. 60 minutes ago. He stated that he didn't test the devices. Like, were you concerned when they didn't go off? They said he was actually pretty relieved when he realized the bombs wouldn't go off, and he asserted that he placed the devices at night because he did not want to kill people. Now, after seeing himself on the news, he stated that he discarded all the bomb-making materials at a nearby dump. So once he saw, I guess, the person walking around. He then stated that he did not tell anyone about the pipe bombs before planting them or in the years since. Man, guy can keep a secret. Although he denied building additional explosive devices, he admitted that sometime after he built the bombs used in this case, he purchased beaker sets and conducted another science experiment to create potassium chlorate, which he claimed was unrelated to bomb making. Now, when the interviewing agents returned back to his motive, why did you do this? He said, I don't know. Something just snapped. I was watching everything, just everything getting worse. He wanted to do something about it, something to the parties, because they were the ones in charge. Well, Brian, why did you place the devices at the RNC and the DNC? He said, I really don't like either party at this point. Now, he also explained that the idea to use the pipe bombs came from his interest in history, specifically troubles in Ireland. He denied that his actions were directed toward Congress, or related to the proceedings that were going to be taking place on J6 at all. So, admits everything, and his mouth is running, just opening the floodgates. Prosecutors now using that as clear evidence of an admission, intent, motive, all the things. So they write, all that being said, Judge, we've got this guy dead to rights. The defendant poses an intolerable risk of danger to the community, and he needs to remain in detention. He's charged by complaint, not by indictment yet, with transporting explosives across state lines, wanting to use them to intimidate and destroy property, maliciously attempting to use those bombs to destroy things in violation of U.S. code. He's got a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years. And so we need to keep him in custody. Nothing can reasonably assure the community would be safe if we let him out. He's already almost blown up 2 buildings. Upon a finding of probable cause, we think that there is no condition that will secure society by having this guy released. Of course, he can rebut that presumption later. So the court needs to weigh 4 factors before you even think about letting this guy out. 1, what are the nature and the circumstances of these offenses that were charged? What's the weight of the evidence that is against him? What is his history and characteristics? And what is the seriousness of the danger to the community that might occur if we let him go? So in analyzing all of these things, here's what they say. The nature and circumstances around this are obviously in favor of holding him. He's charged with planting 2 bombs against 2 major political parties. He committed these chilling acts according to his own admissions because he was happy with the response of the political leaders, and he even admitted something just snapped in his brain and he just lost it. Now, while he may have reached a psychological breaking point, his crimes were anything but impulsive. He was making these bombs for a long time, weeks of premeditation and planning. He even purchased these components before and after the 2020 election. He got the knowledge necessary to build these things, watching YouTube science videos and playing video games. Whatever the precise contours of his research and preparation were, it was enough. He made 2 pipe bombs, dropped them off on January 5th. It was sophisticated enough for him to construct viable explosive devices using all the components necessary to cause an explosion. The nature of this should factor in to your analysis. And perhaps more than anything else, it's the targets. These are extreme targets. He chose to plant them at the headquarters of the 2 parties of America. In his own words, he did it because he didn't like either party. He said they were in charge. That justified extreme violence. But his choice of targets risked not only the lives of the innocent pedestrians and others first responders, but it also could have gotten Kamala Harris and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who were right nearby. So in this sense, his invocation of the troubles in Northern Ireland, where they bombed and killed people, is indicative of his intent. The court should consider the gravity of these offenses and assess what he did accordingly. Now, ultimately, it was luck, not a lack of effort, that his bombs failed to go off. He admitted that he wanted them to go off 60 minutes after he dropped them. His failure to accomplish his objectives does not mitigate any of this. He just couldn't make real bombs. But the overwhelming weight of the evidence favors detention. The video, the location, the purchase history, all of this is powerful proof of guilt. And it's corroborated by the recovery of the bomb-making materials. We searched everything. We found the materials. He also gave an hours-long videotaped confession. He explained everything he did in detail, and the weight of the evidence against him shows he's going to be convicted, so don't let him out. He also, before this, had had no prior contact with the law. His personal history and his circumstances demonstrate anything less restrictive than detention can't ensure the community safety. He placed 2 bombs, spent the aftermath nearly 5 years engaged in an effort to evade detection, and even disguised himself during these attacks so that nobody could find him. And he continued to buy bomb-making materials even after these bombs were discovered. Now, he claimed that these were innocent science experiments, but no. Potassium chlorate is an oxidizing agent that is commonly used in bombs. So critically, he engaged in all of these things for years. He lived under the roof of his family's home. So given the scrutiny of a years-long investigation into them, He kept his closest family members in the dark, so nobody can even vouch for him. He wiped his cell phone nearly 1,000 times, and he now faces the scrutiny of a criminal prosecution. So he's going to be a danger. If he was already at a breaking point, he's going to be at much more of a breaking point now. Don't let him out. So he has also actually confessed to planting the bombs. He confessed to constructing the bombs, to filling them with powder, to setting their timers. Everything corroborates his confession. And these were viable weapons. So simply put, he is a serious danger to the community. Evaded law enforcement, widespread fear and terror, simply no combination of conditions that would keep us safe. So hold him in custody indefinitely, pending the outcome of the case. Signed by Charles Jones from the U.S. Attorney's Office there in D.C. And so, interesting filing there. We're learning a lot more about the confession. For about 2 hours, he said, nope, wasn't me, didn't do it. Then they threaten him with jail. Then all of a sudden, floodgates open, and he starts communicating everything. Now, it sounds like he did have some pretty good details about how he constructed the bombs and transported them. Who knows if he was making that up or if that was all real, and he actually constructed the bombs. But the videotaped confession is in their possession. So now we also see another filing just got dropped, and we're waiting to see whether or not this judge is going to force a preliminary hearing tomorrow. Haven't seen a ruling on that yet, but today, fresh out of the oven, we also have another filing, pretty standard filing here from the defense. Brian Cole Jr. and his defense team are asking for a disclosure of the Brady materials, saying if you guys have anything in your possession, prosecutors, that would tend to exonerate our client, you have a duty, the Supreme Court said so, under Brady versus Maryland, to give us those materials. These are usually just kind of standard forms, or standard filings rather. They want everything. If you have anything that exonerates our client, let us know. All documents, any reports, copies of all these things, any identifications of anything that went weird in the grand jury proceeding, any co-conspirators who were unindicted we want to know about, names and addresses of all special investigators, special employees, any written memoranda, any conversations of the defendant that you recorded, we want copies of those. We're going to review those and see whether there was coercion or duress that was forcing him to say certain things. As to all people who will testify, we want notification of what they're going to be testifying about. Did you make any agreements with anybody not to prosecute anybody? Any reports, any charts, graphs, exhibits, anything that you knew or may know. We want copies of all the materials, copies of all original notes and memos, including handwritten notes. If you have anybody who you think is a material witness, if anybody has a history of drug abuse in this case, let us know. We're entitled to all of these under the rules of criminal procedure, and it's required now. Do not delay. Give it to us now. So we ask you, Judge, force them to do this. Just sign off on this order from John Shorman, making sure this material comes over to us ASAP. And if they're going to be forcing a preliminary hearing tomorrow, that's going to be a big deal if they don't have those materials in the middle of a probable cause determination proceeding. So we're going to obviously be keeping our eye on this one. We're going to the hearing tomorrow. Might be a detention hearing, might be a preliminary hearing, and we'll be back to share what goes down in the courtroom on these issues. Thank you for joining us as we do. But we also had Pelosi was out. She gave a little conversation with ABC News talking about January 6th, the 5-year anniversary of the insurrection. They're all so excited about it. And here is what she had to say.
To certify the Electoral College, who was elected president, is an assault on the Constitution of the United States.
What are you talking about?
It was horrible.
And we see
the Constitution has a mechanism by which you validate the electoral votes. That's all anyone was asking Mike Pence to do. It's in there. You guys changed the rules after the fact to make it much more ceremonial, but that was not what the rules were when J6 was going down. Nancy, you know that.
what happened. They break into your office, they break things, they steal things.
Yeah.
They're trying to.
Yeah, and then she said that she let it happen and she's responsible for it because she, was the Speaker of the House. And the Capitol Hill Chief of Police, Stephen Sund, wrote a great book called Courage Under Fire. And he explained, he called Nancy Pelosi like a dozen times saying, can we please secure the premises? She didn't even answer the phone because she wanted it to happen.
Find you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you, Alexandra, once again, your daughter is with you when you come back into the Capitol. And you said something. You said,
I just feel sick at what he did to the Capitol and to the country today. He's got to pay a price for that.
has he paid a price for it?
No, he's the president of the United States now. But history will,
Oh!
he'll pay a price in history.
He is president of the United States. All your efforts failed trying to rig and cause an insurrection because you couldn't even secure your Capitol building, one of the most secured buildings on the planet, against a couple hundred rioters who were actually getting, violent allegedly after the instigation by federal agents, FBI agents, HSI agents, guys like Ray Epps and many others. We all covered it, but Trump won. All of their best efforts failed just epically. It was beautiful.
What really was bothering me at that time was I'm respectful of the office of Speaker, and I'm sorry that things got broken, but what I was really concerned about was the trauma it caused for the members of Congress, our staff, but everyone's staff.
Yeah, you guys are traumatized. That is for sure. They were losing their minds about this.
I came back
for 4 years. They had full hearings about it, insurrection fever all over the place, even though they stole the election. We saw that CIA was involved in stealing it. We saw that the state election boards were changing their rules on the back of COVID. The whole election was rigged. You had the same Somalian fraud that we see here today permeating throughout our election systems. Fannie Willis was having water main breaks in Fulton County. They had to pause all the votes. And now we know that they didn't even have proper chain of custody signatures on 314,000 votes out there in Georgia. So Trump was out with Zelensky and he was explaining, 2020 was obviously rigged.
And a lot of very brave people, a lot of people that are dead right now, unfortunately, because I've said, and nobody's disputed it, that if the election weren't rigged and stolen, 2020, you wouldn't have had this war. It would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Never was even thought to happen. And I spoke with President Putin. I got along with him very well, despite the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax.
Another faker.
He used to say, what is going on over there? But it was a total hoax, as he knew and as I knew. But I spoke to him, and we'd talk about Ukraine. I've said it before. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it until I was gone, and then a lot of really bad statements were made by people, by a lot of people, I guess.
And they stole it. And of course, we saw they covered up the Hunter Biden laptop, and the CIA was helping Joe Biden's campaign have debate talking points right in the middle of the debate. They were all rigging it. They've been rigging it for years. They don't want the people to be in control of our own country. So they hate the fact that we are now. So, of course, Brian Cole Jr. will be in court tomorrow, physically walking in court in person. We've got a hearing scheduled at 1 p.m. Your boy will be in attendance. We're planning on it. So we're going over there. Hopefully we get in and can make it into the courtroom. I want to see how he moves, how he walks, what he looks like as he's walking to the defense table and taking a seat, so we can do a nice little visual compare and contrast on that with the images, the videos of the pipe bomber walking around downtown DC, Capitol Hill, DC. So we're going to be here to continue to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we try to uncover the truth about the pipe bomber who was conveniently discovered 5 years later and apparently is the guy. Just dumping out all sorts of evidence in admissions during interviews. We'll see what happens. The defense doesn't seem to be as gung-ho about accepting responsibility for this now that they're fighting to have him released from custody, demanding the government show up for a preliminary hearing and prove their case, or else. We're going to be here continuing to cover this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. And we'll be back tomorrow. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll probably do a video update from the court after the court session, provided everything goes well. But that's the plan. Interesting stuff happening there. Government seems like it's kind of dead to rights. They got him clear as day, but the defense is still fighting hard. So more will be revealed very soon, no doubt about it. But let's change gears. Let's talk about this Somalian fraud stuff, because this story just gets worse by the day. And we've got some new documents out. Somalian Minnesota fraud gets worse. We're now finding that those billions of dollars that were stolen from us, the American taxpayer, is now being refunneled right back over to Democrats. Look at these screenshots that were shared over here by Mario Nafal. He says the plot thickens and deepens. They're now taking that money that was going to these absent Somali-run childcare centers. They're taking their profits and giving it right back to people like Ilhan Omar. Shocking, we know. Says here, places like Sunshine Child Care Center, Minnesota Best Child Care, Adult Care, Lucky Child Care, all of them sending $1,000 checks in 2021 to Democrats. This is tied into the epic Feeding Our Future mess. Prosecutors also say $250 million of COVID aid got siphoned off then. More recent probes flag up to half of $18 billion, so $9 billion, potentially looted, stolen from us. Zelensky's like, dang, that's impressive. Including daycare scams where centers pocket millions of dollars, even some getting $4 million. Now, Ilhan got donations from these people, but apparently she took the money and then sent it out to food banks because she's like, I can't take that money. That's too fraudulent even for me. I'm just going to go marry my brother again. So Trump and Vance are piling on about Somali fraud rings, and here are the screenshots. A lot of people finding this out. AF Post, Fox News, Star Tribune, American Experiment, all sharing what we see here. Adult Care LLC, $1,300 goes over to someone. Lucky Child Care, $2,000. A Helping Hand Senior Care, $500. Sunshine Child Care Center, $1,000. Minnesota Best Child Care Center, another $1,000. And where are they getting that money and those funds? To support Democrats. Oh, yeah, the American citizen taxpayer they don't care about. So Cash said, all right, here's an update. FBI's on this. We're investigating this. Saying the FBI is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota. Shout out to Nick Shirley and others. However, even before the public conversation escalated, FBI was already on it. We had surged personnel and investigative resources to Minnesota to dismantle large-scale fraud schemes exploiting federal programs. Fraud that steals from taxpayers and robs vulnerable children are our top priority. Now, to date, the FBI dismantled a $250 million fraud scheme that stole money for COVID funds. We exposed sham vendors, shell companies, large-scale money laundering, and more. The case led to 78 indictments, 57 convictions. Defendants included all these people: Abdulwahab, Ahmad Mohammed, Ahmad Ali, Hussan Farah, Abdallah Nur Jasau, Asha Farhan Hassan, Usman Kamarara, Aberdakadishid Bikshi Dual. All charged. And that's a good start. But gotta go get the rest of them. These criminals didn't just engage in historic fraud, but tried to subvert justice. Nur Ahmadinejad Mohammed and others were charged for attempting to bribe a juror. They went to go bribe a juror with $120,000 in cash. Those responsible pleaded guilty and were sentenced 10-year prison, $48 million in restitution. Where are you going to go get that money? It's already in Somalia. The FBI believes this is just the very tip of a very large iceberg. We're going to continue to follow the money and protect the children. And we're also referring these people for denaturalization and deportation proceedings where eligible. That should happen at a rapid clip. Liars and fraudsters who lied about their admission to America should not be allowed to have the benefit of their fraudulent contract. Nobody else gets to have a fraudulent contract and then have a windfall and a benefit from it. Unless you're a foreign invader, then you can do whatever the hell you want. So we also saw this exchange. And Nick Shirley, we shouted him out in a prior video that should have been published. But he, man, has been exploding all over the internet. And he had 100 million views, I think, on X, exposing the fraud there in Minneapolis. And this fella was also walking around with him, with Nick Shirley. And here's a short clip of this gentleman explaining more about what's going on there in Minnesota.
Massive fraud is going on here in the state of Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis. Explain to me what's going on with the daycares.
So one of the things that I've noticed is there's an exceptional number of child care centers that are set up mostly in Minneapolis, but also in St. Paul. And I said, wow, how many kids are there in the Twin Cities? Some of them are by my office, and I would watch, and I said, well, there aren't any kids there. And I'd go to another one, there aren't any kids there, and I'd see just some Somali guys outside smoking cigarettes. So I stopped at one of them, and I said, hey, I'm just wondering, I've got a grandson who's looking for childcare, and I wonder if this might be a good facility. And they said, no, we're all full. And they had the door open, and I looked, and there were no kids. There was like a couch and a table with a couple chairs. And I said, well, are the kids out back playing, or what kind of place is this? And the guy said, you go. And he almost pushed me out the door, and then he followed me down the street to my car. And that's when I said, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And that's got to be maybe 5 years ago. This fraud is so massive. When the dust settles on this, it's going to be found to be the largest fraud in the history of the country and probably the world. It's that big.
Yeah, and it's a criminal operation. They've got enforcers like gangbangers out there. Don't you come and investigate us? And then our politicians are just so weak and cowardly that they'll accept the Somalian votes, they'll accept the Somalian donations into their politicians, and they'll look the other way as their own constituents are being robbed, and murdered all across our country. It's a sick time, and our politicians need to be held accountable to this. But judges are also enabling this. So again, Mario Nafal clipped a couple of these horrific judges who are releasing these people. Once they're caught and prosecuted, they just exonerate them. Because I guess they're white liberal women or something. Don't really know, including Tim Walz is what I meant. So here, this is Judge Sarah West, and she just released this guy who was charged with these counts. His name is Yusuf, and a complaint came down some time ago. It's under appeal right now, but she dismissed this case. He was charged with multiple counts, 3 counts, 4 counts, 5 counts, 6, 7, and more. And these counts are aiding and abetting theft by swindle, $35,000, another $35,000. We've got another $35,000, over $35,000. Multiple counts of this. And the crimes are just rampant. And she said, doesn't matter, this is a little bit racist, and we're going to let everybody go. So the background on this, she, of course, spent 4 hours handing this case off to a jury. The jury came back, said, this dude is guilty across the board. He stole $7.2 million. What happened? Well, Mohammed Yusuf was the brother of Yusuf. The defense said that while massive fraud did happen, his brother did it all. And this guy was just an absentee owner. He had no idea. He was just around and his brother was doing all the things. The jury said, that's ridiculous. This is not difficult at all. They convicted this guy in 4 hours. They said, your brother was the guy doing it all? Yeah, right. Judge came back and reversed it. The judge said, well, this main guy, there wasn't any evidence that he participated knowingly. The fraud was troubling, but there's an inference that maybe the brother was acting alone. So, of course, they're losing their minds out there in Minnesota. State senator called Michael Holmstrom. He said this judge is an extremist, a true extremist. He said, I want all these records unsealed. And even the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who is a blue, corrupt fraudster like the rest of them, he filed an appeal saying this judge is ridiculous. The state usually cannot appeal an acquittal. They can do it if the judge threw it out. If the Court of Appeals agrees, then the guilty verdict can be reinstated. So the jury of their peers found him guilty and the judge reversed it anyways. It's like a judgment notwithstanding the verdict, and the judge can say no reasonable jury could have convicted this person. And so the judge can take it away from the jury. So that's what they're appealing. But how can you have justice when these judges and governors are the ones immunizing the criminal fraudsters? It's happening all over the place. And here's more about what this dude did. So in his criminal complaint, They give us some background. This guy says, I investigated this guy to determine if he was a part of a criminal enterprise. We charged him. The jury found that he was. Judge said, nope. In total, the fraud was $7.2 million. My investigation uncovered tons of fraud, and it revealed that the entire company was basically a sham entity. It was operating out of a mailbox, and they built the Medicaid program out of millions of dollars. They didn't even have an office. Now, the way this went down is our stupid government says we have to help these poor immigrants who are just here for a better life, doing jobs Americans don't want to do, and you're a bad person if you don't sacrifice your country and your own children's livelihood and futures for them. You're a bad person. And large parts of America, portions of our population, agree with that. Like, I am a bad person. Yeah. No, I just want a safe place for my kids to grow up. Why do you hate black people, Somalians? Homeland contracts these things out, sending tons of money out. But according to its initial documentation, this company called Promise, which was half owned by Yusuf and half owned by another conspirator called Ahmed, they live together. They have children in common. And they originally were supposed to be running their business out of the apartment, but then they changed the address after they got licensed, and they went to Suite 25, okay? They changed the address to Suite 25. They have a real place. They get a license. Once the license comes through, they're going to get their grift. They put Suite 25 on there. Is there a Suite 25 on the building? No, it doesn't even exist. There's just a mailbox there. So then in July 2022, we executed a search warrant and found all of these people. And so, by the way, when Kash Patel is out, he's like, FBI's been on this for a long time. There have been investigations for a long time. Don't know exactly what Kash has done, but a lot of these have been investigated, search warrants, raids. This is a state level offense right now, so this is local people doing this. But here, they searched All Nations Home Care. They searched Life Health Services. They searched Sam Healthcare. All Nations is owned by this guy, and Life Health part owned by this guy. This guy apparently is the mother. My investigation revealed they're all one big, disgusting, incestuous family. So from May, Yusuf transferred $1 million in Medicaid funds from the business account to his personal account. Look at that, $1 million. People work their entire lives to save $1 million to retire on, their entire lives. This guy just takes a couple years, just transfers it over to himself, didn't earn a dime of it. Then there was over $387,000 in cash withdrawals. From October 19 to 22, he made over $136,000 from this company, and another person made $305,000. They also issued checks to real estate companies. It's sick. So he also had luxury purchases that were funded. They didn't have a physical office, but they spent 22 G's on furniture. They spent over $80,000 to buy Coach gear, Canada Goose, Michael Kors, Third Degree Heat, Nike, Nordstrom. 80 grand. 42,000 was spent from this account for luxury cars. I identified a bunch of other things. 3,900 to Best Buy, 2,600 to Peloton, and they're still fat and out of shape. Over $600 to Sunglasses Hut, and $400 to the fragrance outlet. They're going to need a lot more than that. They should have apportioned that $80K for the fragrances. Yusuf have profited off this sham entity, and they swindled millions of dollars. Now, at all times relevant to this guy was an owner. He was the license holder. He knew he had obligations, and they stole $7.2 million. And the judge was like, well, I mean, he said he didn't, though. He didn't do it, though. Promise purported to begin providing services. They got $7.69 million. They got $7.2 million, despite having no supporting medical documentation. And who in our stupid government is giving $7 million to randos on the streets? And like literally, there's no even operation. In the course of my investigation, I learned that Promise did not have a physical location. They operated out of a mailbox. Search warrant evidence revealed they commingled their money. I analyzed timesheets, and I discovered they billed over $15,000 based on fraudulent timesheets. And many of them are buying services from each other. One woman said she barely even saw these two. An email search warrant also shows that this other lady, SM, was creating fraudulent documentation. My analysis revealed over $4 million on fraudulent documentation. Separate from that, I found $660,000 in other claims. I analyzed other bills, $28,000 over here, got a search warrant, and we were looking at these child recipients, saying they were unlawfully paying recipients and responsible parties of child recipients who were purportedly receiving services. So they would just, send your kids to us and we'll pay you to send your kids to us. We'll watch them for you. This person was a recipient at this business, Promise, but they were getting paid $6,000 in fraudulent claims. Another $101,000, $153,000 in claims for this person's kid. Just give us your kid. We'll give them services and bill you for it and give you a portion of the fees that we collect. Our whole country, man. This needs to be rooted out aggressively. Look at this. $520,000 in claims billed to families who are getting unlawful kickbacks. Give us your kid. We'll bill the federal government $100,000. We'll give you 20. They're like, perfect. Here you go. And their kids don't even leave. It's all one disgusting op. During the course of my investigation, I also interviewed recipients who denied they were getting services. This person was a responsible party for his child. He said, I've never even heard of Promise. The only thing that we got from services, they were all done in this child's name, didn't even know about it. I also interviewed someone else who's the party for HM, another kid. HM informed me that the most night supervision one of her sons received was 5 hours per night. 4 hours per day. Despite this, I identified $13,000 in overbilling for her. So in total, $353,000 in billed services, recipients denied receiving, they never got it. So in conclusion, total $7.275 million stolen. This guy was associated with a criminal enterprise and he stole millions of dollars. So we charged him with a crime. Case got prosecuted and went into the jury box. The jury came back down, said this guy is as guilty as they come. And then the judge exonerated him, said actually, he said that he didn't know any of this was happening. And so we can't blame him for that. And exonerations continue on. Now, it's not unusual over there because here is the chief of police called B. O'Hara, who is just totally bending the knee to the Somalis for whatever reason, maybe because he's scared of them. But here's what he says about how amazing they are to the people there, stealing billions of dollars, ripping off seniors and children who could use those funds for their own gains and coach purchases and apparently perfume.
community hadda caruurteena inaan garab istaagno chiefkana waa u baahannahay annagana waa isku baahannahay
عشان oo kamid ah odayaasha community-ga Soomaaliyeed iyo waalidiinta magaaladan degan ilmana ku koriyay.
The Somali
Can't even speak English, any of them.
community here in Minneapolis has been welcoming and has shown love towards me, and I appreciate it.
Wow, that's great. Glad you feel special there, Chief.
Over the last 3 years, we have been working together to try and address some of the real serious problems that we have in our community. We have to be honest at times with the problems that we're having in our community, and we need our community to help us fix those problems together because it's real and it's serious. At the same time, if people have taken anything that I have said out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize, and I'm sorry for that, because that's not my intention at all.
Okay, totally cucked out, that guy. What an embarrassment. How could you even as a man get up there and just say something like that and call yourself the chief of police? We're sorry we investigated you. We're sorry that you're stealing billions of dollars from us, ripping off our American citizens. I didn't mean to offend you because I'm a pathetic loser. That's the chief of police out there. So how can you possibly have justice if this is your chief law enforcement of police at this city? It's pathetic. He should look himself in the mirror and realize what he's doing. But here is another post. We saw this one is a woman who is called Mehek Cook. She is in Ohio, right next door. And she says they're overrun by the Somalis and the fraudsters too. saying if you look here, they're doing the same thing. It's the same scam. It's not just Tim Walz. It's all over the place. Illegal aliens, foreign invaders are using the empathy exploit. Americans are good people. We don't want people starving to death. We don't want people dying. We want to have a strong country. We've been brainwashed for my entire generation about how diversity is our strength and about how we have to let in all these people from all over the world in order to be a good people, to be a good person. Like if you want to go to heaven, if you want to be a nice person accepted in society, you'll accept foreign invaders, even if they're R-ing your children, murdering your people, stealing your futures from you. Just sit there and eat it, lest you be called a bigot or a xenophobe. But here is what's happening in Ohio, and this U.S. attorney is explaining this is also rampant out there.
So these individuals tried to report the fraud that was happening in Ohio and then eventually came to me to say that we're watching providers rubber stamp paperwork for home health. So in Ohio, and there's many states like this, Pennsylvania and other states too, where you can go in and you can say my aging parent needs a home health care and I want to provide it. So the state will, as long as a doctor has approved it, continue to pay you. It could be for 10 hours, 12 hours, up to 24 when it's critical care. So you could sit at home without caring for an elderly parent who really doesn't need it, make about $75,000 to $90,000 a year. Now you add two parents, that's $180,000. Now you add your in-laws, $250,000. You continue to add this and you wonder, what are the services being provided? So a lot of providers came and said, fraud is occurring because we said we weren't going to rubber stamp this paperwork, so they went to other providers. Their home healthcare network saying, we'll make it worth your while. Well, sounds like a kickback to me. So we really need to investigate the Medicaid system and how much it's increased since the Somalian population came and who really needs critical care, because that's meant for our disabled, our elderly, and people who really need it, not to just live off our system. And that's what's happening in Ohio. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's despicable, but authorities are now looking at it from the Attorney General's office to the U.S. Attorney's office. I flagged them all because this is Ohio tax dollars and we have to take it seriously. I'm tired of people telling me, well, this is the way it's always been. It's subjective and we can't really check. No, you can. Audit America, audit Ohio now. And I'm pushing for that in every single state.
Yeah, audits and arrests, really. Nice to know where the fraud is and how much money has been stolen. But there need to be extreme consequences for this. All of the, like Tim Walz should be in jail. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this in a way that sends a shockwave throughout all of the other politicians who are involved in this grift. The reason they do it is because they get money and they get votes. They don't care about regular Americans. Regular American citizens hold them accountable. They say, can you please stop starting foreign wars? Can you please stop inflating our dollars around? Can you please stop having our schools turn into dumpsters and having our economy continue to smolder along as you're so focused on foreign conflicts? We demand excellence. Foreign invaders don't give a crap, really. They're just happy to be here. They're happy to not be in Somalia. So they come over here, they cuck out the police chief who's like, I'm sorry I hurt your fifis. You Somalians are so great. Here, make some more cat and dog for me to eat and shove in my mouth like Mayor Jacob Frey. They all are in on it, and there needs to be consequences for them in the form of literally prison, like prison across the board. And if this doesn't happen, it just shows you that the foreigners are in control. We're not in control. So we'll see what that attorney does, what the DOJ does, what the FBI does. But there is backlash brewing. And here is the man of the hour, Nick Shirley, who really blew the lid off this whole thing over the weekend, releasing a video, which I would encourage you to watch, walking around Minnesota, showing us how the luring center. Oh, send your kids to the luring center. Do you mean learning, Rob, with an N? No. This is now Somalia, America. We don't use N's in our learning word, okay? It's now luring because you're Somali. So he's saying there will be some serious consequences from this. Tim Walz is using the old tried and true statement that you're a white supremacist, you're a Nazi. If you ask about foreign invaders stealing our funds from us, you have to just say, oh, I don't want to be called a Nazi. I don't want to be called a bigot or a xenophobe. So we just have to let foreign invaders continue to steal billions of dollars from our kids.
Yeah, there better be change. People are demanding it. The investigations have been launched just from that video alone. And so there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable. And so if there's not something that's happened, people are going to be very frustrated.
And that's exactly my point. The politicians think that we do work for them. They don't think that they work for us. The Somalians are working for them. They're giving them what they want. They donated it back to them. They vote in record numbers for their constituents. That's why we've got invaders like Ilhan Omar, who probably committed immigration fraud, is in Congress. It's all part of an operation. As long as they deliver to these people, they'll come out and deliver the votes, which is all they care about. And the Somalians are working for them. That's why they want more of them and they want less of us.
Frustrated. And so if President Trump's watching this, it's time to really get down to nitty-gritty and to make a difference in this place of Minnesota that is pretty much like Somaliland right now.
It is Somalia, and they're okay with that because it keeps them fat and rich, and they're okay having their country stolen out from them as long as they're the ones who are on the escape hatch boat. The rest of the country can all crumble under the weight of the invasion, but as long as they've got their, fat 401ks and they've got all their properties lined up, they don't really care about the rest of us. They're violating their oaths. They belong in jail. Here's Ron Johnson explaining this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, first of all, we need to put all kinds of pressure on the state agencies to give us their records. I'm chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. This will be a primary focus of ours. We're already reaching out to Nick Shirley and David and other people who can provide testimony for this, but we also need documents. So, these agency heads who funnel the federal money to the state agencies, they have to demand that the state agencies are transparent. And unfortunately, particularly in Democrat-controlled states, they're not. They're refusing to turn over those records. I've got subpoena power. I will use that subpoena power to obtain these records because we have to get to the bottom of this. Understand, Somalis have just been in this country a few years. They're amateurs when it comes to fleecing the federal government. And let's face it, the federal government is probably the easiest consumer, the easiest payer to fleece, and states do it time and time again. So this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, that's great. Subpoenas are great. These are Congress people. They have the power of the purse. They should just eliminate the programs, honestly, or pass legislation that makes the sending of money to the states much more strict and stringent. You don't just get to open up a mailbox and just say you're caring for your grandparents if you want federal funds. If the state wants to tax their own people and spend their own money to give it to the Somalians, that's fine. But federal government money, where you have to take our money, commingle it into the federal treasury, and then dole it back out to the Somalians, that is within the power of Congress. They should cut it off explicitly on all the states until you can validate that you need that money. Okay, you want your $1 million? We want all of this, or else you're not going to get it. We want a live video recording. We want to see exactly what's going on, and somebody's actually checking. They're not doing that, and getting to the bottom of it, we're to the bottom of it. We got it. We don't need to get to the bottom of it anymore. We understand that people need to be in jail. It's pretty simple. We don't need to spend another year on this. Well, it's actually 11 billion and then 13 billion and then 20 billion. It goes up and up and up. We got it. We want to see arrests. Your subpoenas are great. Thank you for those. But actually pass some legislation. Cut off the funds. Or use your subpoenas to call people in here and then make sure you send them criminal referrals over to Pam Bondi for them lying to you. Otherwise, it's just you're going to get some spreadsheets that explain that there's various fraud going on. We appreciate Ron Johnson. We're not mad at him. He can only do so much. But Congress needs to just cut off the funds. Until we can figure out what the hell's going on, you're cut off. You can make a request for funds. We'll decide voluntarily whether to pay that or not. But you're not entitled to anything because you're thieves. So here was Anna Paulina Luna. She wants arrests like the rest of us do. Here is what she had to say about all this.
The Oversight Committee gets out of this investigation. Look, I think I share the same frustrations with many Americans in that who wants to see another hearing without there actually being charges brought against people that are essentially defrauding the federal government and stealing from American citizens that deserve a lot of these resources that they're stealing. And so I'm hoping that we'll bring these people forward, that they can give us names and people that the DOJ can arrest. But I don't want there to just be another announcement, another angry, 15-second tweet on X, and then have it go away. I think that the DOJ needs to perp walk people if they've broken the law.
The Oversight Committee.
Let's go. That's what I want to see too. So hopefully Pam Bondi was listening to that. Hopefully Kash Patel was listening to that. There's only so much of this crap that we can take. We've got illegal aliens like Kilmar running around singing victory hymns after our judges let him out. We've got Tim Walz handing billions out and then posting pictures of his cat on Catterday like it doesn't even mean anything. And the list goes on and on. We want consequences. We've got a lot of open threads that need to be closed. This is another one that's open. We've already known we were getting grifted off. We sent in Doge to do some help on that, and Congress didn't even help Doge. Congress could have codified a lot of these things. They're all just sitting around waiting for Trump to issue executive orders or for Elon to solve something or for a YouTuber, Nick Shirley, to expose this massive grift and corruption all across our country. They have political power in Congress. They should do something about it. They're not, and they're going to face consequences in the midterms if they don't, and maybe they should. But this is a massive fraud. We are going to keep our eye on it. The Democrats, you can see why they were so nervous about USAID. That was just the beginning. Now it's all the Medicaid fraud. It's all the education fraud. It's all the voting fraud, the apportionment fraud that is now going to be exposed. We've got 3 more years to keep our eye on this one, my friends. We're going to do that. Thanks for supporting Nick Shirley out there. If you haven't already seen that video, I think most of the world has at this point. But we demand better from our own elected leaders. They're literally selling us out. They're backstabbing us. They're traitorous in what they're doing to their own constituents. And these are the same scumbags who will show up and go to their town halls and listen to little old ladies and say, yeah, we're working hard for you and getting your Medicaid benefits and blah, blah. No, they're not. Those Medicaid benefits could be going to grandma if they weren't being stolen by the Somalis and the rest of the foreign fraudsters. So we're going to keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Blood boiling. All right, so my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us. We're going to do a quick recap. We'll hear from you. I see some donos and some comments that came in. Thank you so much for sending those in. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. We're coming back tomorrow. We've got the Brian Cole Jr. hearing. And so schedule might be a little bit different tomorrow. Maybe not. We might do an early stream and then just make a video later. But we got a lot coming out this week. We're excited to have you here. We're in DC. And so we're hitting the streets this afternoon. And we'll be back tomorrow. So thank you for joining us. But members, stick around. We're going to have an after party. We'll debrief. We'll see what else you have to say about all of this and more. And Muffin Rando and KB, and you're clipping for us this morning. Man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for doing this. We got some amazing donos, my friends. Thank you for sending these in. We got some new membos coming in too. Oh my goodness. What a glorious, lovely day it is. Hey, and Born a Hawkeye, this one came in yesterday. We almost missed this one. Said, what do you think about Kilmar Garcia, Abrego Garcia, how he is just allowed out? Hortman voted against it. It's fraud rings. Governor Walt is a complicit shyster. From Born a Hawkeye. That was from yesterday on our members only Sunday morning stream. Yeah, I was enraged that Kilmar was released. We were almost going to cover that segment today, but I think it might have caused me to blow a gasket, so we didn't. That's how mad I am. But that is a great one. We're in DC, baby. This is a real photo. This card lets me get into the Library of Congress. Okay, it's technically not a real photo, but it almost looks like a real photo. That's a great photo, man. It's a great photo. I love it. So we were going to go to the Library of Congress to get our official library cards tomorrow, but we're going to go to the Brian Cole hearing tomorrow. So that schedule got just shifted. But we are in DC. We love it. I think we actually might be going to the Lincoln Memorial this afternoon. Got to see what my beautiful wife is up to. Amazing. Off-label podcast. What's up? Done with these judges, man. Lock them up. Our laws are not theirs to abuse as they see fit. Tired of nothing happening, even when we see treason happening right in front of us. They say, don't be a bigot. It's not treason. Sorry, we have to investigate you for stealing billions of dollars away from us. We're the bad people for caring about our country. Nope. Off-label pod says, if you get the chance, was Cole Jr.'s walk in the courtroom, but bet it doesn't match the video. So that's why I'm really excited to go. I want to see his physical movements and how he touches his face and how he moves his glasses. I just want to see it because I've watched that J6 Pipebomber video a lot. And once I see him, I'm going to watch it a lot again. I don't think I can record anything. If he's out of the courtroom in public, maybe, but otherwise not in the courtroom. I can't record anything, unfortunately. I'd love to, but I can't. Federal courts. Criminal contempt if you do that. Not good. Acid Burn, what's going on? My favorite lawyer. Acid Burn, what a nice compliment. It's really nice of you to say that. There's a lot of good lawyers out there, that's for sure. Born a Hawkeye, what's going on? We got that one from yesterday. K-Bean, thank you for reclipping that one. Just Rhonda in the house. What's going on? Just Rhonda, bringing in 20 new membos. We got John Henry's here. Welcome. Lisa Bobisa. Welcome aboard. Lisa Bobisa. Bushmaster in the house. We got Arrest Biden. Knowledge in the house. We got Darren Miller. What's up, CC Steele? Reverend John here. Estimator. Canto Rock. What's up, Patricia Moore? We got Joe Drum. Lepers here. All gifted courtesy of Just Rhonda. I am Ted Sco. What's up, Idiot Box HQ? Jill Craft is here. American Virus is Freedom. We got Jackie Kennedy, Jeffrey NG, what's up, Arrest Biden, all gifted membos, courtesy of Just Rhonda. And new membos, we'll see you in just a few minutes. We're going to have a members only after party where we'll debrief and see what else you have to say. Why would a man or anyone buy that many kitchen timers? Well, maybe he was just doing the Pomodoro technique, you know? The Pomodoro productivity technique. Is that how you say it? Pomodoro? It's like you work for 50 minutes and then you break for 10 minutes or whatever it is. Or maybe it's 45 and 15. But yeah, you set timers. I used to kind of do some of this in law school. Like when I was studying for the bar, I'm like, all right, I need like 6 hours of studying. All right, 50 on, 10 off. Set a timer, 50 on, set a timer, 10 off. And ding, okay, break time, stand up, move. Come back down. Maybe he was studying for the bar exam. I don't know. Michelle, but it's a good question. It's a lot of kitchen timers. Maybe he's a chef. Maybe he's a cook. Hey, B-Man, I believe the guy from The Blaze, the person they showed on camera walking, talking on their phone was a female. This guy is a patsy. I know a lot of people are. I kind of have that same vibe. Like the fact that he's autistic or, borderline autistic. But yeah, he's not exactly autistic, according to the family. More will be revealed. But he also had to be broken. He had like 2 hours of interviews, then they broke him. Then he had all these confessions. And if you're already somebody who's like mentally unwell, you can instigate somebody to say certain things. There's a whole bunch. We should probably do a deep dive on some of that. But all the coercion and the duress case law, actually, I think we'll probably get, if the defense is going to fight this as hard as it looks like they're going to fight it, they're probably going to try to throw out the confession. So we'll probably see a full filing on that to suppress the confession, a motion to suppress the confession because it was ill-gotten. It was based on duress and coercion. I bet we see that soon. Wildly Lost, what's up? Good to see you. Wildly Lost, 1976. Well, now you are found, sir. Welcome aboard. B-Man, also, everybody should remember that it was CI, a bomb squad that came in, got those bombs. That's another reason why I believe the Blaze guy. It felt weird. It did feel like an operation because they also then basically saw the pipe bomb and didn't race Kamala Harris out of there. Remember that? Like, what was that about? They're just like, oh, here it is. There's a bomb. Oh, well, it's not because it was an operation. Because it was a training op, like, oh, there's somebody, Capitol Police are running something or whatever. They just left it. Testing. FBI read logs wrong. Auto privacy app equals many events. That's interesting too. Yeah, that's interesting too. So, yeah, maybe it wasn't like a full wipe. Like, I don't, wiping your phone is a lot. It takes time. Then you have to install all your apps again. So was this guy like, was he just getting on some of those nudie sites? And he was just like, I can't let my mom see that I was on this brony site. He was a brony, apparently, or is a brony. Maybe he's just embarrassed by his bronyism. He's like, I don't want... That was some funky brony. That was a funky brony session. So he's like, I'm deleting everything. Just wiping everything. Wipes his whole building. You know, could it be that? That sounds a little bit crazy. Like, and again, I've had to deal with people. As a criminal defense attorney, I would have people regularly. It's very sad. Like, you know, basically borderline schizophrenics who'd come in, say they're listening on the phone. And it's not like, you know, it's like some random well, why do they want your phone, ma'am? Well, it's because they know I know things. Well, what do you know? Well, I know all the secrets about what's happening with my HOA. I'm like, well, I probably don't think that the CIA is too concerned about your HOA. Well, they are, because the HOA knows the truth. And you're like, okay, so, all right. This is not going to be a, you know, fruitful conversation. So you got to, but it happens. It happens a lot. It happens a lot more than I think people realize. Testing. So the option was jail or more interview. Is that legal? So the defense is going to make the argument that no, that's coercion. That's duress. They're basically threatening him. But legally, if he just made an admission, they were there, they only needed that one admission, I think, yeah, technically, legally, they could take him to jail. So they're just going to say, we could do this or we could do that. The defense will say it was coercive. I think we'll need more facts about what you know, how that actually went down. And I'm sure that will be debated. If the defense is going to, like, if this guy confessed, then you would imagine if he wants to just accept responsibility, he would tell his lawyers, I don't want to fight this. Just give me the best plea deal that I can get and we'll get out of this. But it doesn't sound like that's happening. They're fighting it hard. Testing, recording, or it didn't happen as they say it did. Yeah, exactly. So the defense, as we saw in the Brady motion, they want the full video recording, which they'll get, and they can review it, and they'll make their arguments. I think we'll see a motion to suppress the confession. They'll say the whole thing should be thrown out because it was illegally gotten. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Is this thing on? Tap, tap, tap. We got, hey, he learned the powder formula from a video game. Yeah, what game is that? Is it like Construct a Bombtopia or something? Is it Bombcraft? Bombcraft. Learn how to build pipe bombs while you're digging through a mountain. I don't know. It was interesting. Yeah. And again, yes, it's explosive, but is it like, how explosive is it? Is it going to ignite and just kind of like a Fannie Willis, or is it going to explode and like actually kill people? So who knows? Mock Schnell. Oh my goodness. Mock Schnell. How amazing it is to have 50 new membos. You're rock, dude. Thank you for this. So 50 new friends. We'll see you in just a minute. Cindy Bowley. What's up? Cars Garn. We got the Tisha Sutton. The Tisha Sutton in the house. What's up? Hey, Joel and Kathy Marriage are here. Don Harshman. Good to see you. We got Hansford. The Yummy Brand says Patsy. We got Reformed Convict is here. Freddie Fairlane, Ryan, what's going on? Epstein's Bedsheet Necktie. Welcome. Epstein's Bedsheet is here. Welcome to the community. Knitting Kitten. Steve Schmidt, Aussie. What's up, Walter Joey D. Cruz? We got Sarah D's here. Dios Candelaria. Darlene Castellano. What's up, Robert Larson? Russell Shepard. Not that Karen. No Justice is here. Diane C. What's up, Anthony A. We got Dark Passengers here. Mr. Patrick, Sherry for Trump. What's up, Jenna? Stacy's in the house. Unreal Heads. Michael Mathis, Gene Sullivan, Enchiladas in Texas. Me, Parental Rights. We got 13 LG T. Nancy McShane. Red Wave. What's up, Hitman? Scavies is here. Carol Myers. Rush is here. Charisse Kennerly. Heath Wilson. 13 Coley T. Old Dog, New Tricks in Florida. What's up? Elaine Percy, Mushmouth is here. NCT, Don Hastings, Zachary Bellingham, and Daniel James. 50 new membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thank you for doing that. New membo friends, welcome. Very glad to see you. Hang tight. We'll see you back here in just a bit, too, for our membo stream. Hey, good to see you, Rob, from Mock Schnell. You too, Mock. Thank you for those donos and those membos. So President Trump gave me a 5-day weekend, so at least I can do is spread around the joy with some more membos. Yeah, it has been a little bit of a hiatus, hasn't it? Things are pretty quiet out there, too. I saw that even the White House, I don't even think they posted a schedule today, although Netanyahu's coming to Florida today. So I don't know if Trump's going to be down there all week, just doing Florida. Testing 2741, 10% of the Washington childcare have Somalian as the first language. Wild. So they just figured out the grift and they just set up franchises all across the country. In all the states, just paying them money. Hey, Carrie B is clipping for us too. Carrie B, thank you. Good to see you. NY, I and other MDs have reported fraud here in California. I'm sure it's even worse there. They pay these transportation companies by the mile to transport patients for methadone. Recently, patients have signed out of one clinic to sign in a clinic nearly 100 miles away. This has caused havoc for me and other MDs. They are paying the patients under the table for this grift, taking advantage of patients in addiction. Happens all the time. And I have familiarity with this. And I would see this basically. Like many addiction centers have government contracts. And so they just need bodies in beds. Like that's it. So they will just like round up people just up and throw them in these clinics and just bill somebody. And they don't even like actually treat the people who are in the clinics. I watched it. Anyways, it was pretty sick. Yeah, and I'm sure they're just grifting off like addicts, like people dying in beds. There's like, yeah, just bill the government for it. They look at people as just numbers, like literal revenue numbers. It's gross. Psychological projectionists. Same thing with courts too. Defendants and people going through the system, just like numbers, like a sausage factory. Psychological projectionists tried to bribe a juror. Did they bribe the judge? Great question. Yeah, and maybe they did. Nobody wants to talk about that, but how is she exonerating $7 million of penalties? Sick. Philip Butler, cops covering up organized crime equals a protection racket. Yeah, and then they go out and they're like, well, they've been very nice to me. How nice, Chief Judge? How nice to you? Maybe a little too nice. Do your job. Testing 2741. The cops there are crooked DEI hiring Marxists. Yeah, and they just get the love and the support. Like they make that police chief feel real good about himself. He's so happy. They're bringing over cats and dogs constantly. He's like, wow, another plate of this? Wow, thank you. The cops there are crooked. Certainly sounds like it. Yeah, states will do the same things with education dollars. States will do the same thing with education dollars, which I think they're already doing. Childcare and all the things. I knew it. Rob's a secret brony. That got revealed today? Oh, no. I think we knew that the other guy's the brony. But I'm familiar with the brony stuff because it was a big thing back on 4chan in the early internet days. Remember there were like these bronies like running around? You're like, what are all these weird like adult men who are playing with like these ponies? Ugh. Anyways, Sharpie guy. I'm 20 minutes behind you guys. Rob, are we noticing a pattern with Cash? Seems as he's jumping in to claim the win when our team won the game and he rode the bench the whole game. Well, yeah, I think there is some of that. We've called that out before with Cash in general. He did that as soon as he took office. He's like, look what the FBI just did. And he's like announced like 10 indictments. We went back. They all started under Christopher Wray and they just got concluded. So he's like inheriting a lot of these things. Our question is, who is Cash going to charge in a new case? Like a lot of this, okay, fine, it's old news. It's been going on since 2022. We just saw it. Local cops there in Minnesota brought this charge against this guy back in 2022, or for allegations of things that happened in 2022. It's gotten much worse since then. And so is this current DOJ, is this current FBI opening new investigations and going to be arresting new people? That's what we want to know about. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, it's politics. Everybody taking credit for everybody else's accomplishments. Oh, the judge in the Tyler Robinson case is ruling right now on media access. Is he live right now? Ooh, let's see if he's live. And see if that's going on. Ruling. Yeah, let's take a look. See if we can find this, catch some of this live. 2 hours ago. This looks live. Let's see.
Record determined there are no reasonable alternatives to closure. The parties have argued, and the court has considered, the following policy interests in determining the motion. 1, protecting safety interests. 2, protecting privacy interests and non-party participants. And 3, protecting the defendant's right to a fair trial. Approximately half the portions of the transcript the parties seek to redact address courtroom and courthouse security measures. Safety concerns are well recognized as justification for closure of court records. This undoubtedly includes references in the court record to specific safety measures undertaken as part of the court security plan and practices in highly publicized cases. This case generates extraordinary ongoing national and international attention, some of which is threatening in nature to the parties, their representatives, and non-party participants. The safety and well-being of all involved in this matter outweighs the interests of the public that are served by open court records. Nevertheless, and as the parties recognize, the court need not seal the entire transcript and audio of the October 24th, 2025 hearing to protect the safety interests of all those involved. Redacting selective portions of the transcript and the audio that reference security measures will serve safety interests while allowing for as much public access to the remainder of the record as possible. The court hereby orders the redaction of the portions of the transcript corresponding audio referencing security measures identified in the parties' joint status report and further pared down during the closure hearing. These include the following portions of the October 24th, 2025 hearing transcript.
The secret hearing that we were all asking what happened.
Page 4, line 19 through 22. Following the word unshackling until the sentence begins with the word and. Page 4, line 25 until page 5, line 1, including the first sentence of the last paragraph. Page 5, line 9 through line 10, following the word proceeding and ending before the word but. Page 5, line 18 and 19, including the entirety of the bailiff's comment. Page 33, lines 17 through 18, following the word courtroom until the end of the sentence.
So better than redacting or sealing the entire document.
5 through 7, following the word arrested until the end of that sentence. Page 35, lines 24 through 25, including the last sentence of that page. Page 36, line 1, including the first word on the page until the sentence begins with the word that. Page 40, line 12 through line 16, following the word outside until the word maybe. Page 41, line 17 through line 21, following the word on until the end of the paragraph. Page 43, line 11 through line 13, following the word jail and ending before the sentence begins with the word and. Page 55, lines 12 through 13, following the word people and ending before the sentence beginning with the word so. Page 64, line 18 through 19, following the word been until the end of that paragraph. And finally, page 70, lines 1 through 3, following the word clothing until the sentence begins with the word I'm. Protecting personal privacy is a recognizable justification for closure of a court record. To justify the closure of a court record, a privacy interest must be more than a desire to avoid annoyance, criticism, or embarrassment, and must serve to protect information of a highly personal nature. The parties initially identified 6 portions of the transcript to be redacted based off privacy interests. During the closure hearing, the parties withdrew defendants' requested numbers 1, 2, and 11. The remaining 3 requests were significantly pared down. The court has already ordered the redaction of request 3 for security reasons, including page 34, lines 5 through 7, as ordered above. The court also finds that privacy interests support this redaction. The court has considered the interests favoring closure of the remaining 2 requests for redaction and concludes that the information is not of a highly personal or sensitive nature. Privacy interests do not outweigh the public's interest in this case. Therefore, the court denies redactions of the following portions of the transcript. Page 35, lines 16 through 17.
All others, we got
page 80, lines 22 through 25.
All right, so kind of splitting it, it sounds
The right
like.
to a fair trial seeks to ensure that the one accused of a crime will have his guilt or innocence determined solely on the basis of the evidence introduced at trial.
Tell that to Derek
Thus, if
Chauvin
disclosure
or
of
Kyle
information
Rittenhouse.
poses significant risk of endangering a defendant's right to a fair trial, then closing or sealing a court record to protect that information is justified. Nevertheless, when such information has already been introduced to the public arena, there is a suggestion that no additional damage can be done, and the issue of sealing or closing the record becomes moot. Here, the Joint Status Report identified 4 portions of the transcript for redaction, based on the argument that redaction is necessary to preserve defendants' right to a fair trial. The court is unconvinced that the disclosure of the selected portions jeopardizes that right. The information in question is contained in the charging instrument, whether directly or indirectly, as part of the factual allegations made against defendant and already part of the public arena. If this information poses a risk of violating defendant's right to a fair trial, defendant's first line of defense is found in the rules of evidence and criminal procedure. Closing or redacting these portions of the transcript and audio is outweighed by the interests and the objectives served by open court records and mooted by prior disclosures in the information. Therefore, the court denies the request to redact the following portions of the transcript and audio. Page 55, lines 2 through 7. Page 60, lines 24 and 25. Page 61, lines 1 through 6 and 13 through 14. Page 64, lines 11 through 17. These portions also refer to a potential non-party witness. The court has considered redaction to protect the non-party participant from risk of retaliatory physical or mental harm. However, the reference is made to that non-party participant during the October 24, 2025 hearing offers the same but no additional information that can be found in the charging instrument and shared by law enforcement during a press conference. As a result, redacting those portions at this point is a moot issue. For the above reasons, the court orders the following. A transcript of the October 24, 2025 hearing shall be redacted in accordance with this order and entered into the record. And the audio recording of the October 24, 2025 hearing shall be unsealed for the purposes of the court clerk identifying the timestamps corresponding to the redacted portions of the transcript, which selected portions, once identified, shall be resealed. No copy of the unsealed audio shall be provided until the identified portions have been resealed. The court will sign this order today, and it will go into the record. Now, turning to the second issue.
So splitting that, I don't know what all those redactions
The court now issues the following order regarding the media's request to intervene.
Big one.
2 groups of media outlets seek to intervene in this matter. Only the state and the defendant, however, are actual parties to a criminal action. The press need not be a party to a criminal action to pursue the public's presumptive right to access public court records. The press has already been provided with a mechanism through Rule 4-202.04 to protect that right and has already utilized it in this matter. For this reason, the court denies both requests to intervene.
Wow.
The court now reiterates and clarifies its order requiring parties to serve all closure or reclassification motions on the media dated November 10th, 2025, as follows. Again, the parties are ordered to serve all closure motions on members of the press who have requested notice. The parties must file proof of service with the court. A closure motion is any motion to classify or reclassify presumptively public court record under Rule 4-202.02 as any other classification. The parties need not serve notice on members of the press court records that are presumptively not public. A court record means a record that is prepared, owned, received, or retained by this court. This includes hearings. Therefore, the parties are ordered to serve all motions to closure hearings on members of the press who have requested notice. The parties must likewise file proof of service with the court. Nonetheless, the parties are not required to serve notice on members of the press of motions to limit electronic media coverage. If members of the media intend to object to a closure motion and request a closure hearing, such objections and requests must be filed within 7 days of receiving notice. To promote judicial economy and to eliminate unnecessary hearings, the court may decline to hold a closure hearing if no hearing is requested. The foregoing should be treated by the parties as a standing order for the duration of this case. And that concludes the second order of this case. The court wishes all parties a peaceful holiday season and hopes that each of you is able, to the extent possible, to spend time with your loved ones. The next hearing is set for January 16th at 1 p.m. And Mr. Robinson, I will see you there at that time. Court is now in recess.
All right. So it sounds like he kind of split that on the redactions problem. So we've covered this case since the beginning. This is the Charlie Kirk assassination case. And the judge had a hearing in October 24th, that we didn't know about. They just did it. And before that, we were keeping tabs on where Tyler Robinson was. Remember, we saw a couple hearings where the cameras weren't even turned on. And we're like, where is this dude? Then there was a secret hearing they had in October 24th. We've been fighting about getting the records of that hearing. And the media has moved to intervene and say, we want to be a party to the case because you guys were doing this stuff in secret, not telling us about any of it. So we'd like to be a party to the case so that when you do it again, we're made aware of it such that we can object and have our rights vindicated as people and members of the public. So the judge then today just issued a ruling saying on the 1024 hearing, we'll get to see some of that. They'll redact some of the security concerns, whatever those are, and we'll see what they are. But I remember very clearly that Kyle Rittenhouse and Derek Chauvin didn't get all of these protections. Everything was wide open. They said, well, it's for justice and it's for COVID and everyone needs to see everything and everything is transparent. But then when it shifts, then when it's a defendant that maybe is a little bit more favorable, then all of a sudden it's about defending the defendant's rights. Nobody was caring about Derek Chauvin's rights when the media every single day was showing his knee on George Floyd's neck, or when Kyle Rittenhouse, there's a photograph of Kyle Rittenhouse in handcuffs when they brought him into court. And that photo was shared all over the place. Kyle Rittenhouse was never convicted of anything. Why was he in handcuffs? So they shared that around. We all saw it. But now when it's a different defendant who shoots and kills Charlie Kirk, all of a sudden, oh, defendant's rights. And by the way, I care about defendants' rights, but not when they're bending themselves into pretzels to give them the same benefits that other defendants have not gotten in America. It just tells you all you need to know. But anyways, it's not a horrific ruling. because he is going to be releasing some materials. There'll be other things that are redacted, and we'll probably be able to see what those are about entries or exits or how he'll be transported, things like that. But is he going to get like taken out by some group of MAGA conspirators or something? I think if anything, it'll be more likely that a BLM riot would break out or something like that. But anyways, so that is what happened. We also then saw that we'll have another hearing in January, and the media is not going to be allowed to intervene. And I think that he's kind of split in that one too. He's saying, I'm not going to let you formally be a part of this case as an intervenor, but we will make sure that you get notified of any of the documents that are submitted. Anytime we attempt to have a closure hearing, we'll basically let you know about that. And then you can object and still be a party to the case without being an actual party to the case. So not a ton new or overly substantive, but thank you for flagging that for us. Glad we caught a little bit of that. Shout out to Jeffrey Adams, man. Thank you for that. Yeah, good to see you, Jeffrey. Thank you for flagging it. Rubos, what's up? The Rubos are here. RubosSaltShop.com. Rob, it's a lot worse than just stealing money. There are American deaths associated with Somalis and home health care services. Here's a report from November 21. Dustin Grage, shout out to him, like the Minnesota fraud whisperer. On X, he said, breaking, another Minnesota Medicaid fraud investigation reveals that Ultimate Home Health Services, owned by this guy called Othman Mohammed, billed Medicaid $462 daily and didn't provide any services at all. And the guy who he was supposed to be caring for died alone in his apartment without any care, because this person is a monstrous thief who will just steal and let elderly senior citizens die and rot away in their homes. And don't forget, diversity is our strength. This is good for America to have more of that happening. Thanks, Rubos. Hey, what's up, Rob? CF Rob, what's up, Rob? Says, yeah, they just give needles out to homeless people for free in California. They give them alcohol, apparently. You can like walk in, is that in California? You walk into a building, you're like, I'd like a beer. They're like, here you go, have a beer. Where is the money coming from the free needles? Where is the federal government paying for it somehow? Or are we all being overcharged for grift? No, it's true. They have like drug use kits to incentivize more drugs, because the more drug addicts, the bigger their budgets are to help more drug addicts. So they're like, I know how we can get more drug addicts. Let's give them drug addict kits. That's a great solution for it. And enable them. And I say this as a recovered alcoholic. It's ridiculous. It'd be like if I was like, everywhere I went to like, well, you're not really an alcoholic. You just don't have enough supervision when you're drinking. So here, have some alcohol. It's like enablement. We're enabling it, and they're all getting rich and fat off of it. It's sick. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. What a lovely day it has been. Thank you for all these donos. Welcome to our new membos. Now it's after party time. We're going to head over. We're going to debrief. So if you're on YouTube, just hit pause, or don't hit pause. Just hang tight. We'll pause, and it will auto-magically transfer you to our members-only after party. We'll take some locals comments. We'll see what else you have to say about it. It's a beautiful Monday. We're coming back tomorrow, of course. We're going to get into it again. And we got the Brian Cole Jr. hearing. So we may do an earlier stream tomorrow morning. His hearing's in the afternoon, and then just do a recap video of the Brian Cole Jr. hearing tomorrow. So regardless, come back tomorrow. We'll get into it. And we'll really see what the judge says, maybe in the morning, to see if it's going to be a full-blown preliminary hearing or what is going on. So we're going to have a great week. No doubt about it. Very glad that you're here and with us. Thank you for joining us on the road as we're in D.C. doing some fun stuff, like going to court hearings. We're excited. We're excited. That's the whole point of wanting to come out here, is so we can go see the Pipebomber and check his gait to see if it's really him, which we'll get to do tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. So we'll pause here. After party time, locals, friends, hang tight. Just hang tight. We'll come and say what's up in just a minute as soon as we close it out here. It's always mobile on the road. I always forget where everything is, but we're going to make it work. So we'll pause here for the evening, for the day, my friends. Happy Monday. We're closing out 2025 strong. Just days left, and then we'll have a fresh new year coming up soon. We love that fresh new year. It's like pulling that piece of plastic off, that strip. Heavenly. All right, so we're looking forward to that. Membos, stick around. Otherwise, my friends, we're going to pause here for the day. Big thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly around here. KB in the house. Carrie B modding for us. We got Muffin Rando, John in the house, Donut My Me. Big shout outs to Neuro D, to Janek, to Dog Digger. We got Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Just Rhonda, all modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful around here. We're grateful for you. But now, members only time, baby. And so hopefully we see you there. You can join up on YouTube or join over on Locals or catch the link on Substack. And we'll see you there in just a few minutes. But we're coming back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. It's going to be a great week ahead. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful day, my friends. Happy Monday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye. And now, bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers stay each night together and live.